on the ladder, and I think this is very strong. Into channels on that Destruction Warlock, the Arms Warrior, Smexen, Chun-Li on the Windwalker Monk, and Gorecki on the Mistweaver Monk. I think should be able to deal with channels quite nicely.
This is the first time we're going to see this Windwalker Arms Warrior composition in a tournament setting. Will it be powerful enough to pierce through the armor of Chanimal's Warlock? Super Frogs, I was actually expecting a Mage Warlock from them. We saw them get great success with it last week, and since the Bonded Souls changes, I would only assume that it got even more powerful, but instead going for the Rogue Warlock, Restoration Druid, another composition which they have practiced, and Snuts likely running the Fan of Knives build, focusing on area of effect damage. That way, when the opposing team tries to run away from Chanimal, then Snuts can maximize his pressure. Chanimal has been taking quite a beating here against the pillar, knocked it into line of sight. Smexen opting to retreat away, waiting for Gorecki to be free, but he's very far away, actually engaging a crowd control chain, trying to set up potentially for a kill onto Chanimal, but with very lackluster damage there, is not going to find even a cooldown.
Yeah, Chun-Li is opting to run the Tiger Eye Brew talent, and that's something he's going to be able to build up, stacking buff throughout the game, and when he decides to use it, turns his damage into not physical damage, but magic damage, and that pierces through a lot of the armor that Chanimal does have available. So once Chun-Li has that up and they decide to pull the trigger with that, Chanimals could definitely be in some trouble, and we've seen Windwalker Monks opt into that talent, specifically against Destruction Warlocks, as it really increases their damage. I
think it's maybe the first time in Turn Set we've seen Gorecki spread that onto a Mistweaver Monk. We've seen a lot of his Restoration Druid, but now if he's able to diversify even further, it definitely adds a lot to their roster. I'm curious to see how this matchup plays. So far, I would not say that the boys have found too much pressure overall against the Super Frogs. It's been quite evenly matched so far. I'm curious to see how well they can deny Cubsy from looking for drinks. It's definitely going to be even more significant since the focused growth changes to Restoration Druid, making their Life Bloom much more expensive of a heal. I would like to see the boys switch targets more often. So with currently Ironbark active on Chanimal, a better target to attack during this time would be Snuts, and they are switching some attention to him. This way Cubsy has to spread his healing onto 2 targets, but in the meantime, Snuts counter-aggressing with a Shadow Step kick. Good initiation. Chun-Li low on health. Chanimal looking to fake cast, trying to find a Chaos Bolt. Not able to find it just yet, but Snuts is overextended. Caught in a leg sweep. Chanimal backs him up with a triple Shadow Fury. Good backup. Rain of Fire, cleaving the entire team. Gorecki appears to be struggling.
Yeah, definitely struggling. You do not want to be grouping up behind the pillar against Snuts with that Fan of Knives specialization. You can see how taxed Gorecki's mana has already been. He needs to play catch-up at this point in the game. Smexen's still low, Gorecki's still low. What is Snuts going to do? Looks like he's going to try to back up Chanimals just a little bit. And in this situation, Cubsy activating the Thorns. And so far, the boys have been doing a good job of slowing down some of the drinks. Another setup here onto Smexen, as looks like he's going to be able to survive with that Life Cocoon coming in from Gorecki. But this composition isn't working out that great for the boys. I feel like the boys could be playing it a little bit safer. If they just sat back and kind of waited a little bit later into dampening, that is where they could sort of push through some of the defensives that Chanimal has available. But these exchanges don't seem to be going in their favor.
I think ultimately Snuts is going to be the target that goes down, if a target goes down for the Super Frogs. Chanimal's Destruction Warlock, they can't seem to dent him. Currently a setup onto Smexen with multiple Chaos Bolts. Chanimal fake casts the Spell Reflect. He's not going to be eating his own Chaos Bolt anytime soon. Definitely a difficult task to get through multiple interrupts. Now with all 3 members of the boys pushing forward, they are looking for a big push onto Chanimal. He deflects it with a double Mortal Coil, but Cubsy's still locked out in some crowd control, opts to trinket out. Now trying to swap to Gorecki, catching 1 Chaos Bolt, perhaps a second. With Way of the Crane, he should stabilize. Smexen leading the charge here for the boys. Pressure onto 2 targets. Perfect situation for the boys. This 2-pronged assault is definitely going to run Cubsy for a loop.
Yeah, Chanimal's still low. He's in some trouble. Smexen and Chun-Li all over him. Snuts trying to counter pressure. Kidney shot now secured onto Chun-Li. If he can survive, he still has a touch of karma to turn this pressure in their favor if he really needs to. But he's being a little bit greedy right now with the leg sweep onto Snuts. Feeling relatively safe. Gorecki still, he has a lot of work to do here, Sid. He needs to keep Chun-Li and Smexen healthy so they continue this push. But with Chanimals topped off, things aren't looking good for the boys.
Yeah, with Chun-Li and Smexen attacking into Thorns, they're taking huge damage. Snuts is then going to go after the healer Gorecki to add even more pressure points onto the side of the boys. That's costing Gorecki even more mana. We haven't even made it to dampening, and Gorecki is almost tapped. And I would say it's unlikely that he will find opportunities to drink on the Grand Arena when facing this composition. There are just so many ways to deny it. it. Grecky charges to center field. Looks like he wants to start something here while Cubsy was sitting down for a drink. They deny the drink. They get evasion. This is a good push from the boys. Now they should switch their attention to Chanimal. Try and create pressure on another point. Burn Cubsy's mana down even further. Smoke bomb gets dropped by Snuts as he's trying to make something happen here onto Smexen, but really not finding too much off the back of it. Cubsy once again sneaking away to drink while there's pressure on Smexen. Chun-Li able to move over and deny that. Grecky is going to get trained down by Snuts, and Chanimal is going to 1v2 Chun-Li and Smexen, it looks like, for the rest of the fight. And I think that's a great situation for the Super Frogs. They've got pressure in so many different locations. Chanimal finally starts to take a bit of a beating. Cubsy denies the kill with Iron Bark for now. Snuts moves back to support, but he walks into a trap. Double leg sweep for Chun-Li and huge damage to follow it up.
Yeah, Snuts getting bursted down. Cubsy's going to have to top off Snuts here. Grecky and Cubsy relatively even on mana. Chun-Li's been doing a great job in this game so far, using his Ring of Peace from range to slow down Cubsy whenever he goes for these stealth drinks. He's been really doing a great job keeping an eye on him, not allowing him to reset his mana, and I think that's very important for the boys, as it doesn't seem like Gorecki's going to ever have that same opportunity.
This way of the crane push for Gorecki needs to pay off. They need to get an unending resolve with this, and they do. Chanimal's just going to respect the damage and try and counter-aggress during this moment of time, but that was one major objective that the boys have finally managed to break off from the Super Frogs. Mana is tied at this point as we step foot into dampening. It's still anyone's match. Currently momentum in favor of the Super Frogs. Smexen has to abort the mission, leaping back to Gorecki, but now he's stacked up with Snuts. Snuts can have at 2 targets. Chanimal can have free reign on Chun-Li in midfield with Thorns. Huge redirected damage. Gorecki's got no mana left. It's unlikely that we see another way of the crane. The threat of him activating more damage is basically lost, and the boys are starting to struggle.
Yeah, Tiger Eye Brew gets activated by Chun-Li. He's trying to get aggressive onto Chanimals. Huge burst damage coming in. Cubsy tries to redirect it with the Iron Bark, but Chanimal's getting low, almost in execute range. That is not a place you want to be against an arms warrior, especially Smexen, as they're ripping into him. Cubsy completely tapped on mana at this point. Gorecki activating the last little defensive cooldown that he has left. He doesn't have mana for Way of the Crane. Not going to be able to rely on that to catch back up his team. And it looks like with Super Frog stabilized, the boys are in a lot of trouble.
Thorns is available for Cubsy. He needs to activate that as soon as possible. But Smexen leaps over, denies the drink, and secures crowd control for the team. They make a swap onto Snuts. I'm not the biggest fan of this, as Snuts still has evasion to make a trade. Chanimal lays down a gateway if he needs an escape. Smexen is still getting pressured. Gorecki really struggling to heal through the damage output from the Super Frogs currently here. Touch of Death gets activated. Chun-Li needs to make something happen with this Touch of Death. They find a bit of pressure, but nowhere near a kill. 3 members low on the team of the boys. Dampening gets higher and higher. Cubsy moves across the map. He's looking to secure crowd control and potentially close this game out. Chanimals finds a Chaos Bolt, gets pummeled. Good denial by Smexen. They're slowing down the pressure, but inevitably this Chaos Bolt is going to be connecting, and as soon as it does, it could easily be the end of the game. Double Mortal Coil. Blind attempt. Gorecki breaks that right away, but Smexen's still low. Life Cocoon saves him. They catch Snuts with a double stun lock. Cubsy comes out just in the nick of time. Smexen is still low. 1 Chaos Bolt. Life Cocoon denies the kill on Smexen. Ring of Peace prevents Snuts from getting back to his target. Cubsy tries to add in a Maledict here on the Smexen, just getting out a couple of Wraths, trying to add in as much damage as he can. It's a race to the finish. Both teams completely tapped, and Snuts is likely to fall first. He shadow steps out, back behind Cubsy, and Chanimal takes the hill. Snuts is still low on health, caught into a leg sweep, and he's likely to go down here. If they can get any damage, Chanimal MVP play, keeping Snuts alive. No, Chun-Li finds the kill. And now in this 2 versus 2, who really comes out ahead, Ben?
I really don't know. Chanimal's on the Destruction Warlock is going to be very strong in this matchup with Cubsy. Chun-Li and Gorecki, I know they practice 2v2 a lot as well. These teams are very experienced in these matchups. We're at 22% dampening. Both these healers are If Cubsy can sneak away and get a drink here, it's going to be really good for their team.
He might res.
There's a maybe. I feel like it's really unlikely that actually happens against these players, but if he goes for it, potentially he could. If Chanimals can find the crowd control in the match, it's definitely a possibility, but I think Chun-Li, with the talents he's playing, is actually going to be doing quite well in this matchup with the Tiger Eye Brew. As long as he can build it up, his pressure onto Chanimals will be immense.
All right, at this point, dampening ramping up. Cubsy with a slight mana lead. I'm really looking to see if Chun-Li uses his Touch of Karma aggressively to redirect Thorn's damage. Currently, crowd control initiation by the boys. This is going to start putting them significantly ahead. Super Frogs need to be careful and not disrespect this push, as Chun-Li has activated Touch of Death. That's going to explode, bursting Chanimal. Cubsy doesn't have very much mana to heal through that damage. Gorecki looks like he may be trying to sneak away. No, opting to actually just roll across the map. They have to deny the drink. Ring of Peace snipes Cubsy, putting him back in combat. Ring of Peace again to just annoy Cubsy more or less. Chun-Li, it's basically Chun-Li versus Chanimal, as both healers are tapped on mana. Who can output more damage or get a clean setup? I think the instant crowd control definitely goes in favor of the boys, but you can never count a Chaos Bolt out.
Yeah, that's true. At any moment, Chanimals could take someone out potentially, but I feel like with Chun-Li, with the talents he's playing, they've got to be favored in this matchup. Gorecki's playing the counteract magic as well, so that's going to be counteracting a lot of the immolate damage Chanimal does have available. But as dampening gets higher and higher, that instant healing doesn't really matter nearly as much. Cubsy with Innervate, trying to keep Chanimals nice and healthy. And for Gorecki, it's really unlikely. You can see him on the left side of your screen. He has a little Fell Hunter on him. That's going to be preventing him from dropping combat and ever really going for a drink in this matchup. So for the boys, they need to just make sure Cubsy's not regenerating mana, but it's not looking good. I mean, Cubsy has been able to hold on to a lot of this mana. Chun-Li now making a swap onto Cubsy. Now with the Tiger Eye Brute talent, Cubsy in bear form is going to be a vulnerable target as well. So as long as Chun-Li can use that ability, have uptime on a target, I feel like his damage will be able to push through some of these defensives that Super Frogs has available.
Cubsy's just running across the map and trying to sit down to get a drink. This will either regenerate him mana or pull the opposing team out into midfield, and that's the main objective for Chanimal, is to get a target out in the open. Currently, it's a bit of a race here to kill Cubsy or to kill Chun-Li. Who will fall first? Multiple Chaos Bolts flying in. Touch of Karma rearranges that damage back onto Cubsy. Multiple trades have to be made. It's desperation mode here. It's almost 40% dampening. Cubsy almost completely tapped, but now he's got Thorns in his back pocket. He could trade that out and redirect some damage to Chun-Li, and waiting to see. He's going to activate that Thorns on the Touch of Death. Perfect timing. Chun-Li has to make a decision. Does he attack into Thorns, boost his damage with Touch of Death, but also have some of it redirected, or does he just abort the kill? And it looks like he's going to abort the opportunity to try and get a kill, then come back after Thorns. Cubsy gets caught out of bear form. Bit of a mistake here on Cubsy's part. He's disrespecting the damage, not using that Gladiator's Medallion. Tries to jump to safety, gets Ring of Peace back into Chun-Li. Chanimal deflects Chun-Li with a Mortal Coil, now with a Bash, and that Mortal Coil and a Bash is definitely a kill chain of crowd control that the Super Frogs can utilize to take down the boys here in game number 1. Chun-Li looks like he's just going to be training Cubsy for the rest of the match.
I think it's an intelligent decision as well. Destruction Warlocks are just so hard to take care of, but the thing is, with Chanimal's free casting in this matchup, there's going to be a lot of pressure here for the Super Frogs, and in that last exchange, they were able to get Life Cocoon as well as a Touch of Karma from Chun-Li, and Chun-Li now super vulnerable. No diffuse magic, no Touch of Karma, no nothing for another 20 seconds, so he's going to have to be careful, can no longer afford to just sit on Cubsy. He has to wait for some of those cooldowns to come back up, rotate available to him, so he can once again make an offensive push on Cubsy if he really wants to.
All right, Cubsy sits down for a drink. Chanimal passes him a gateway if some Chun-Li wants to go after him. Chun-Li is really not taking the better end of this exchange, currently in midfield, trying to race Chanimal now at almost 50% dampening. That's almost 50% healing reduction in the match. Both monks going for a double stun lock. This is a good setup by the boys. Iron Bark exchanges. I love the Ring of Peace volleyballs. I want to see more of that. I actually think it's a great lockdown that does not share diminishing return with stuns. Could be a way to pin Chanimal down and prevent Chaos Bolt long enough to take him out. Cubsy once again just doing the long kiting path across the midfield, trying to bait Gorecki and Chun-Li out into center field so that Chanimal can free cast. Gorecki is reluctantly trying not to expose himself. Cubsy is just sneaking away. Maybe he goes for a res. Curious to see if he decides to go for a res or drink. Drink is obviously safer with Chun-Li feared. Gorecki out of position. Cubsy may get some mana. Nope, not able to at all. Innervate available. Both healers still tapped now at 50% dampening. Chanimal connecting a Chaos Bolt off the back end of a Fear. Good combo by Chanimal, building pressure for himself. Life Cocoon has to be exchanged. Momentum now swinging in favor of the Super Frogs.
Yeah, things are looking good for the Super Frogs here. Chun-Li at some point needs to make an offensive push. He has every single cooldown available to him, and I'm just curious to see, does he go after Cubsy? Does he go after Chanimal? Chanimal still has a good response with the unending resolve, but it's going to become more and more difficult for Cubsy to actually keep him alive, and it looks like Chun-Li, he wants to get aggressive on Cubsy, gets caught into a paralysis, Touch of Death gets used, Cubsy immediately trinkets, gateways away, but still, Chun-Li all over him, Touch of Death will proc, but Chun-Li doesn't want to mess around for too long, allowing Chanimals to free cast, goes over there, gets interrupted, and as long as Cubsy sits in the open, Chun-Li's going to have a difficult time sitting here and really getting pressure out onto Cubsy, as Chanimal's basically acting like a turret for his team, pressuring both Chun-Li and Gorecki away.
Oh, spell lock on Gorecki. Chun-Li is low on health and out of range. Actually just decides to go back into midfield. This is a bit of a risk. Nice fake cast by Chanimal. He expected Chun-Li to use Touch of Karma on that Chaos Bolt, so Chanimal stopped his Chaos Bolt right before it finished.
Oh.
Now Touch of Karma is used and no exchange of damage. Cubsy was able to potentially regenerate some mana amidst all of this. Infernals are available. Super Frogs have a massive lead. All they have to do is push forward and power through. Infernals have landed. Thorns are up. Tons of damage redirected towards Chun-Li. He has to give up on that kill attempt. This now is going to make it awkward for Chanimal. What does he do? Does he run in there and try and push them over, or does he just stay in midfield and regenerate mana? Potentially going for a res could be a good way to force Chun-Li and Gorecki off the pillar, but effectively getting not too much done with his Infernals. I mean, at least a full mana bar on Cubsy, but if he can't find a kill, Chun-Li can just go in and out so easily, dodge these Chaos Bolts. Actually just taking one for free. Now deciding to retreat back to the pillar. Dark Soul still available, and I mean, with dampening at 62%, even Immolate is eventually going to kill someone.
Yep, that counteract magic becoming less and less effective in this matchup. I actually don't mind Chanimal the way he used the Infernals. He was under a lot of pressure, dropped the Infernals to basically force Chun-Li to run away. Didn't have to trade out the Unending Resolve or the Dark Soul just yet. Cubsy looking for a res, immediately gets shut down on that. Now Chun-Li wants to get aggressive in this matchup, but he's still not topped off and really doesn't have any defensive cooldowns. That Thorns from Cubsy will do work, but Cubsy's really going to struggle keeping Chanimals healthy in this matchup. Gorecki's still just sitting back, doesn't have the life cocoon. And basically Chun-Li, he needs to avoid every single Chaos Bolt, because once that lands, it is so difficult for Gorecki to recover that HP, and Chun-Li's self-healing isn't going to be nearly as effective. Cubsy looking for a res once again, gets shut down, but that forces Chun-Li in Gorecki's hand. They have to charge in. They can't just hide behind the pillar and get a free reset. So I love that Cubsy is threatening that from the boys.
Chanimal and Chun-Li going at each other here, trading powerful defensives to just stay in the fight, but Chanimal is eking a little bit ahead here at almost 70% dampening. Ursul's Vortex to hold Chun-Li in the open. Gorecki moves in with Way of the Crane. They have to get a kill, but he gets thwarted. Mortal Coil, potentially a fear, a full fear. Gorecki trinkets. Do they have a bash? They have a bash. If Chanimal gets a Chaos Bolt on this, Gorecki could easily go down. He gets it. Gorecki barely stays alive. He's desperately trying to add some counter pressure, but now he's just exposed in midfield. He has to portal out. They stun Chun-Li.
Oh, no!
Portal was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Very fortunate for him to be able to even get back to the pillar in that position. Almost a throw for the boys, but at 71% dampening, their health is not going to go up. Cubsy is putting pressure by casting Revive. Even if he doesn't get it, Chanimal can sneak in a couple damage spells while he's going for it. So either Cubsy will get a Revive or Chanimal will kill them. They've got them in checkmate.
Yep, Gorecki's still low, no mana available. How is he going to recover? Chun-Li almost has the Touch of Karma, activates the Diffuse Magic. He's looking to take Chanimals down. Cubsy almost has that Iron Bark. Chanimal's still very vulnerable. It's 73% dampening. It is do or die for Chun-Li and the boys. Like you said, they cannot afford to just run and reset consistently in this matchup, but they really have no choice. They stay out in the open, they'll die if they hide behind the pillar. They're going to die. Cubsy looking for a res. If Snuts is alive, they're going to die. So there's a lot that the boys have to consider in this matchup, but this is looking really good for the Super Frogs.
Oh, Mortal Coil bash, double Chaos Bolt. No way you're making it out alive. The Super Frogs secure game one.
Oh my goodness. I mean, the Super Frogs want to play this comp. We already saw it work for them. The boys, this is the composition that they wanted to play into this comp with. The boys and the Super Frogs both have their plans in order. It all comes down to who the more skilled team is, tied for first place in North America. Super Frogs looking to get themselves on match point. The boys trying to tie this one up.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this composition is you would think it would be the ultimate Warlock killer, but Chanimal's still managing to survive, and most of the pressure we saw in the last game was the boys going after Snuts and these double stuns. Snuts isn't going to have as many heal over time effects when he gets caught into those stuns, as Chanimals is the primary target, so it's a great opportunity for the boys to get some pressure rolling, and I think potentially we see Snuts be the main focus in this game once again.
Yeah, I think definitely before dampening, switching to the Rogue is a great opportunity. You attack the Warlock, Cubsy gets his life blooms comfortably on the Warlock, and then when you get crowd control such as this intimidating shout from Smexen, you can switch targets to the Rogue who doesn't have that life bloom, get a ton of burst out, and then force Cubsy to expend mana when he comes out of the crowd control to switch the life blooms to that target. And I think that strategy is definitely what the boys should employ before dampening. Maybe after dampening has engaged for some time, the Warlock just becomes the better target overall, but prior to that, they are trying to catch Snuts in center field as all three members of the boys collide. Snuts doesn't take too much damage from that attack as he's able to completely stabilize. I love what Cubsy is doing, just adding in Solar Wraths, adding in just a tiny bit of extra damage. I mean, look at this, just the tiniest bit of extra damage from Cubsy might just put Smexen over the edge.
Yeah, Smexen almost going down there. Like you said, Cubsy, I think he casted 10 Solar Wraths in a row, and that damage definitely does add up if you have the free time. Cubsy now getting swapped to, has to be a little careful activating the Barf Skin, but no major major loss there for the Super Frogs as Snuts move in. And like we kind of talked about, this is not the best position here for the boys. If they're all grouped up behind the pillar, that's when Snuts is going to be able to do work. And they realize that, so they're moving forward. They don't want to be caught behind the pillar. Once again, trying to get some damage rolling onto Chanimals, but he's just so durable on the Destruction Warlock.
Ooh, Snuts is trying to dodge a leg sweep. If he stacks up on Chanimal, they've been doing these Stormbolt, Cubsy, leg sweep, Snuts, and Chanimal. So Snuts he's going in and out. You see, as a rogue, he'd normally want to be right next to his target attacking, but he's trying to avoid getting stunned. But now he's overextended behind the pillar. Gorecki catches him. Chun-Li's trying to pull back to assist with some pressure, but Snuts is able to escape. Good backup by Chanimal. You can just tell that Chanimal's completely aware of his entire team with his fear timings, making sure that any point one of his teammates is stunned, he's getting out as many fears as he can to stall the damage out so that his friend can escape. Smexon getting pinned down and taking quite a beating here. I would say that Super Frogs are establishing a lead.
Yeah, I think that is definitely fair to say. Some talent adaptations I've noticed from these teams. In the meantime, one Cubsy's getting caught into the stun. Leg sweep, Stormbolt will force out basically everything from Cubsy. Trinket, Barkskin, and Iron Bark. So Cubsy's definitely going to be a vulnerable target moving forward. But that was the touch of death committed by Chun-Li. And one thing I noticed from Chun-Li is he's no longer running that Tiger Eye Brew I was kind of talking about. He went over to the Alpha Tiger ability, and that's basically going to give him a mini Bloodlust anytime he does use his Tiger Palm on a target. And I think that is kind of just big damage over on Smexon, but I think that kind of shows that necessarily Chanimals isn't going to be the main focus in this matchup. They don't want that armor-piercing ability. They might go after Cubsy or Snuts in these swaps.
This is what I like from Snuts, is him attacking Gorecki far away from Chanimal, where Chun-Li and Smexon are. This way, Snuts can't be swapped to as easily unless Gorecki has leg sweep. Chanimal getting bursted here with crowd control on Cubsy. This looks good for the boys here to force some major cooldowns. Maybe get a kill if the Super Frogs don't respond in time. Chanimal trying to recover. Not much defense for 5 more seconds. They need to stall. Chanimal with great stall. Buys time for Cubsy. Now booting him back to full health with that Innervate. Some free healing. Well timed there. Mana is fairly even at this point, which is a bit unexpected. The map selection from the boys is definitely peculiar because on this map, Cubsy can easily escape and find drinks. I'm not a big fan of the selection from the boys overall. I'm wondering if they were thinking about playing a different composition. But definitely a smaller map would have been more favorable. Good cross-crowd control initiation from the Super Frogs as they look to close game number 2. Smexon barely stays alive thanks to Gorecki at this moment in time, but their defensive cooldowns have been overlapped and now create a vulnerability moving forward.
Yeah, Smexon, no Die by the Sword available. Like you said, there's not too much for the boys to really work within the situation, but Snuts gets caught behind the pillar. Gladiator safeguard keeping him alive. He gets pinned against the wall. Nice ring of peace by Chun-Li. Very scary. Snuts, but Gorecki getting low. Huge Chaos Bolt by Chanimal. Into a Mortal Coil. Can he just solo him? Snuts needs to connect. Finds the kidney shot. Gorecki still no trinket for a few more seconds. Do they have the damage? Shadow Flare. Chaos Bolt lands. Good night, Gorecki. And Super Frogs claim game number 2.
Super Frog
will be able to 3-0 the boys here in the upper bracket. This could easily be a grand final to start the day off, but they are looking strong on this Warlock, Rogue, Restoration, Druid composition. Super Frogs initiating crowd control, but no attack just yet. I do like Chanimal's positioning down out of line of sight. This way, if they overextend on him on the outside perimeter, the opposing healer Gorecki will then have to run into center field to heal. Definitely positioning is going to be important, but in the meantime, the boys have initiated. Chanimal looks to deny the initial attack by using his Gladiator's Medallion and dropping an Infernal. This is an attempt to scare Chun-Li and Smexon away. They're boldly staying in front of Chanimal. Chanimal fake casting a Mind Freeze, going for a double Mortal Coil. Definitely been on point with that Warlock. Bit of unfortunate pathing. Chun-Li out of line of sight. Chanimal still looking for fake casts. Now with both interrupts out of the way, he's going to be sneaking into Chaos Bolt. He's dropped multiple Rain of Fire. He's boosted his damage quite heavily with that Supremacy. This next Chaos Bolt will be a gigantic one if he manages to get it.
Chanimal's in a little bit of trouble here, and you have to wonder for the boys why they didn't initially lock in this composition. This is really all they've been running in these tournaments, so maybe they have played out this matchup and not the most confident in it, but I like that they're going back to their comfort pick, as the last 2 games didn't seem too great, and the Grand Arena was close. The second game, not really. So going back to their comfort pick, Windwalker, Death Knight. Chanimal's now getting low. He's under pressure. Cubsy should be able to heal him up, but he's out of line of sight. Chanimals gets gripped away. Double Mortal Coil will keep him alive and in the fight. Cubsy in a great spot to keep those heals up. Good positioning right now. Cubsy always just staying so far away from Smexon, never really in range to get death gripped or into the paralysis of Chun-Li. And I just think I really like the way Cubsy's playing it, and now he's actually just going for a drink.
I think Chanimal's positioning on the box here is to try and get Gorecki to move in, but he gets Ring of Peace downstairs out of multiple points of line of sight and completely exposed, potentially going to go down in game number 3. Unending Resolve exchanges, keeps him alive a tad bit longer, but Smexen nails an interrupt onto the healer paralysis to follow, and Chanimal gets owned. The boys take game number 3, and the boys are back.
Okay, so my big question here is how much do you...
Been having a great performance on the DK, but his warrior is actually his main, so this guy has definitely been stepping up to the plate for his team. But I do want to say that I'm not a big fan of not having Chanimal in the game. I actually would have rather seen the Mage Lock Druid. I think Snuts might be a little bit exploitable here on the Shadow Priest. I'm not sure how practiced he is on this as they make a setup on him.
Great crowd control by the boys early on, trying desperately to bring this to a game 5. If they can manage to, Ashamines is already out of the pool. There's no really large maps available for the Super Frogs to counterpick the boys, but obviously Tolvaron is going to be their most difficult hurdle to get over. But if they can get over it, they still stand a good chance of potentially overthrowing the Super Frogs in a reverse sweep. But with the pressure currently getting dished out by the Frogs, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. 2 targets low on health, multiple defensives exchanged in multiple places. Gorecki's going to need to keep his head level to try and heal through this pressure, managing to recover. Snuts now being pushed back. It may be an exchange of Vampiric Embrace. Good trade on Snuts' part, rotating effectively with Cubsy.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see which affinities both of these Restoration Druids are using. I think Cubsy's actually going with the Feral affinity, so opting to get a little bit more aggressive in this matchup. Potentially, if Smexen and Chun-Li realize this, they could go after them, but the problem with that is Wealthy Man and Snuts will really be able to punish them if they can't take down Cubsy really quickly. Chun-Li now in center field, Snuts in void form, putting out a ton of pressure. This is the Icy Veins of Wealthy Man as well. Unfortunately, they really weren't able to get too many cooldowns. They got Gorecki's Trinket, but outside of that, still the boys are looking really healthy.
Cubsy is not running Master Shapeshifter, though, as playing with a Shadow Priest and a Mage, they're going to be taking heavy fire. He probably can't spend that much time in cat form, so his main goal is to just have the mobility to run on the map and get drinks, and also re-stealth and add stuns to his team, whereas Gorecki is running with the Master Shapeshifter, so he gets 25% more damage in cat form, and Gorecki with that melee cleave, he definitely needs to get in the face of the opposing team and dish out counter pressure. Crowd control initiated by the boys, but they're still under fire. 2 targets dangerously low on health. You can tell that Bonded Souls change definitely affecting the boys' composition this week.
Yeah, definitely. Snuts a little bit low, but he stabilizes. Now a silence on a Gorecki with no trinket available. Cubsy throwing in some rats as well. Chun-Li forced to trade out his Touch of Karma. Now more of a vulnerable target in the matchup, and normally we don't see Chun-Li go with the Fortifying Brew, but opting into a little bit more defense in this matchup. He needs those windows of opportunity like I talked about. They have to get through with the Shadow Priest. They have to get through the Fade, the potential Dispersion, as well as that Iron Bark if they really want to start finding win conditions in this game. But Snuts getting bursted down as he gets interrupted. Should be okay. Cubsy's still in a healthy spot. If we look at mana, Gorecki still has a little bit of a lead. I'm not sure if he was able to sneak away and get a drink just yet, but that is definitely important for the boys to stay ahead on mana.
Smexen running that Dark Simulacrum. We have to wait and see if he manages to steal any crowd control to add to his team for a big push. Snuts has been maxing out his damage quite effectively. We were kind of questioning whether or not he'd be the weak link, but so far he's doing so much damage. Chun-Li on the back foot, basically start to finish. Mind control at low health, denying Gorecki's Iron Bark. He needs to be careful he doesn't use that on the wrong target, not falling for that trap. Chun-Li now activating Touch of Death, trying to go for the kill. Cubsy and Snuts deny, activating their defense just in time, and now Snuts can look to get aggressive again with that full Insanity bar, the purple bar below his health. When that is full, he can go into Void form such as this and increase his damage, get access to Void Bolt, a big hard-hitting instant cast ability, and Chun-Li has to respect that Void form. Transcendence portal back to safety with his healer at the pillar, but they've left Smexen behind, and the Super Frogs will gladly cause damage his way.
Yeah, and Snuts actually going for full-on damage in this matchup, going crit, haste, as well as the Auspicious Spirits talent, so it's going to give him a lot of instant cast damage here, but make him vulnerable without that added versatility you would normally see a Shadow Priest pick up, potentially. Now double leg sweep on Snuts. He's getting bursted down. I think that's the first dispersion of the game that Snuts has been forced into. Cubsy's still doing quite well on mana, activates the Innervate to easily top off Snuts, but the boys, they can't afford to be sitting in the open for too long, as all 3 members are potentially rotting down.
I mean, look at this pressure right now out from the Super Frogs. I do believe that Smexen was able to steal something effective there, potentially a polymorph. He now polymorphs Cubsy. They switch targets to Wealthy Man. I like this swap. I think it's very important against the Restoration Druids that you switch targets frequently if you want to try and catch a target without live claim or expend the Druid's mana. They've been spending a lot of time on Snuts, but anytime they stack up, I would like to see the boys switch, and right now we see them swapping to Snuts again. Swapping around definitely important, but in the meantime, Cubsy has secured crowd control. Snuts is still on the back foot, even with Iron Bark struggling a bit to recover. Cubsy opts to use his Gladius Medallion to break out of paralysis. You do not normally want to break out of that crowd control with your Medallion. It's the shortest one available for the boys. You'd much rather save that for something longer like a Bash or a Cyclone or Asphyxiate. So now Cubsy is behind. The boys are showing signs of life here in Game 4, but Smexon needs to stay in it a bit longer.
Yeah, he definitely does. He's in a lot of trouble. No anti-magic shell available. He grips over Wealthy Man, finds a Death Strike. Gorecki connects the Iron Bark, but Smexon not out of it yet. Beautiful crowd control here by Chun-Li, slowing down Snuts, getting some pressure for his team. Wealthy Man turning his attention to Chun-Li now as they look to get some damage rolling with his Psychic Horror onto Chun-Li. He still has a touch of Karma, going to be trading that out onto Wealthy Man. Wealthy Man blinks away out into the open as Smexon and Chun-Li look to chase, incapacitate onto Cubsy into a stun. This could be the first ice block of Wealthy Man, but good kiting, good mind controls coming in from Snuts as well onto Chun-Li, really slowing down the boys and giving Cubsy some time to recover.
We see a silence on Gorecki. Chun-Li being pressured. Smexon low as well as we move into dampening. The damage isn't going to stop. Wealthy Man has been left open most of this game, maxing out his damage, and that is eventually going to be deadly. Smexon dips low. Now Snuts being counter-pressured, trying to drag them out in the open so Wealthy Man can potentially polymorph Gorecki, but not able to find it. Instead, we see Asphyxiate initiated by Smexon, really trying to lead the charge. Dark Simulacrum. What did Smexon manage to snag? We'll find out shortly. Snuts has to disperse. That's a cooldown overlap. The Super Frogs are starting to falter in terms of cooldown. They have a lead in regards to mana, and it's likely that they will be able to hold that with the composition in the map that they have selected, but they're not denying Gorecki's drink right now. Snuts moves into position, but he was able to deny at least some mana regeneration. Cubsy gets a significant lead in that regard. Cooldown's forced now from Smexon, but Snuts is still low. Caught in a stun, he can't void shift, and the boys are looking to move to Game 5. They do it just in the nick of time. They overcome the most difficult map and difficult strategy the Super Frogs had.
Game 5 going to be the decider. Whoever wins this gets to stay in the upper bracket. Both of these teams in the dead tie for the year, and that advantage could be huge.
Beautiful blink by Wealthy Man, dodging that double leg sweep. Wealthy Man was baiting Chun-Li to charge right in by standing on Snuts. Blinked 1 second before Chun-Li went for a stun and avoided it. That was some clutch play, a bit of a risky decision, but obviously the Super Frogs are alive and ready here for the Game 5. They believe in this composition. We are surprised to not see Chanimal come back in on that Destruction Warlock, but I guess they're going to chalk it up to mistakes were made. The boys, though, going after Wealthy Man, and on this smaller map, Tiger's Peak, switching targets is a lot easier. He gets bursted down. It's Game 5. You can't afford not to trade. Ice Block gets forced, overlapped with the Iron Bark, and the boys are bringing the heat.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think the main X factor in this game has been Gorecki on the Resto Druid. His ability to balance his Feral Affinity with offense and defense, push in, get the damage rolling when his team needs it. That's what we were missing from the boys in Game number 1 and Game number 2. When Gorecki's on his Resto Druid, the boys make me a believer.
Yep, they definitely do. I'm glad to see Gorecki back on that Feral Affinity, even though I think diversifying into that Mistweaver in the future would be crucial for their team overall. Right now, his Feral Affinity Restoration Druid is easily unparalleled with Druid play in the current build. Wealthy Man getting swapped too. I do like the boys switching their targeting up, really throwing Cubsy for a loop in terms of where he needs to dedicate the most amount of healing, although leaving Snuts open to develop momentum with the C2 members starting to rot down on the side of the boys. Gorecki just having a field day with his Feral Affinity, sneaking away, jumping into stealth, stunning up a target, and adding a lot of extra pressure for his team.
Yeah, definitely Gorecki looking for a Cyclone onto Snuts. He ended up fading it, so potentially they could swap over to Snuts now without that fade available. Nice grip into double leg sweep. Wealthy Man could be in some trouble. Potentially the second ice block coming in is looking to kite away. Snuts trying to counter pressure here into the Void Form, getting a lot of damage rolling onto all 3 members of the boys. Gorecki's going to have to play catch up here. He gets caught into a bash, activates the Bark Skin, and I really like Super Frogs punishing Gorecki a little bit more. When he's playing this aggressive with the Feral Affinity, I want to see them making swaps to him, put out pressure, making sure he has to really second guess himself. He's going to be moving in.
Gorecki gets bursted down, and as that Feral Affinity are a lot more fragile, so he definitely needs to be careful when he's navigating around the map. If the Super Frogs switch their attention to him, he could be a vulnerability for the team. His mana isn't looking too good, and that's because the boys are splitting their pressure and adding damage to multiple targets. It's really becoming difficult for Cubsy to dish out the healing he needs. Now he may need to look and try and sneak away for a drink to regenerate that mana, because Gorecki is starting to get a bit of a lead in that regard. And as the Wizard Cleave healer, you definitely don't want to fall behind in mana. That is your main win condition. We see Gorecki jumping into the fight. Triple crowd control initiated by the boys. Can Gorecki maybe get a clone? He's going to add some extra damage with a big ferocious bite. Wealthy Man gets life grip back to midfield. They desperately try to reconnect and force the ice block. They grip Wealthy Man out of line of sight. Drops that frozen orb to try and kite, but even that might not be enough. Is it going to be good night? Gorecki pushes forward, adding a bit of extra damage. They're trying to go all out for this second ice block, but they're not finding it. Gorecki spends too much time in midfield. Snuts was pressuring him away. He can't stay on target, and they don't get the block.
Yet, Chun-Li still has his touch of death. This is a great moment in the match to actually go after, and you can notice Wealthy Man's not playing Temporal Shield, so that the only thing they really have to get through is that Iron Bark in this matchup. Gorecki getting swapped too as they continue the pressure onto Wealthy Man. Chun-Li still sitting on his touch of death. I have to wonder why he's not using it. I really feel like that would be the added damage they need to push through some of the defenses Wealthy Man has available and potentially get that ice block and make a swap over onto Snuts. Gorecki finding the re-stealth. Asphyxiate onto Cubsy. Snuts a little bit of a vulnerable target here, but still doing fine. I think Cubsy or Gorecki was actually able to sneak away, regenerate his mana with that drink, and that is keeping the boys in this fight.
Snuts getting bursted down. He lands a double Psychic Scream onto both Smexon and Chun-Li to stall the fight out just a tad bit longer. Now looking to counter-aggress with tons of damage on that frozen orb. Wealthy Man trying to get some space, chuck out a couple of frost bolts. Gorecki re-hotting the team and likely to look for a re-stealth afterwards. Try and add some extra stuns to the team, dispelling off those dots, jumping in for a big ferocious bite potentially here, and he gets punished though, jumping into the fight. Wealthy Man immediately switches to him. This is exactly what the Super Frogs needed to do. Gorecki responds, but he responds a little bit late. The damage isn't stopping, just a tiny bit more to take down Gorecki. Chun-Li trying to support in the back line, maybe some Vivifies, any extra healing possible to allow Gorecki to stabilize. Gorecki's gonna have to play a lot more safe. If he gets caught like that again, it's gonna be curtains.
Well, this is match point as well. There's a lot on the line for both of these teams. Cubsy gets caught into the bash. He gets the Iron Bark onto Snuts preemptively. Snuts trying to kite away with the Fade, manages to escape. Wealthy Man looking for some polymorphs, really just trying to play defense for his team right now. Another polymorph secured onto Cubsy. That was stolen by Smexon, so Wealthy Man and Cubsy, they have to be very careful that Smexon isn't getting these very important spells with his Dark Simulacrum, as that's going to allow the boys to get the added crowd control they need to take someone down. Snuts, once again, he trades out his trinket preemptively before the Void Shift, and that's one of the reasons why they fell in the last game. Snuts had the Void Shift, but he didn't have the trinket available to get out of the leg sweep. I really want to see Snuts be patient with that, as that is such a key part of their defense.
Yeah, most certainly is. Wealthy Man getting pressured here. If they can get this block, maybe they can kill him on Hypothermia pushing forward. Gorecki still has the mana lead. This is not looking good for the Super Frogs. The series is slipping away from their grasp. They had a significant lead, but now they're falling behind as the boys switch to their main composition, that bread and butter. Windwalker, Death Knight dealing tons of damage. Wealthy Man falling behind, trying to get space, but unable to escape. Gorecki leaps into the fight, adds a stun, immediately escapes to safety. Doesn't want to get clotheslined by Snuts again and possibly go down and throw the game for his team. Snuts backs Wealthy Man up, life gripping him back. Smexon though able to reconnect. Gorecki sneaks in again, adding just a tiny bit of extra damage. Gorecki has definitely changed his playstyle. He's not spending too much time in there, but he's adding just a little bit of damage that may be enough for his team to get this ice block here as they try to push for it. Cubsy not responding. Very interesting decision by Cubsy to not use Iron Bark here. Now using it potentially too late. It could be an overlap. They can't stay on target. Snuts is able to save the day.
That was huge greed from the Super Frogs, but it ultimately pays off. It's got to be frustrating for the boys, having Wealthy Man so low and him just completely disrespecting the damage, ultimately holding on to that very crucial ice block in the matchup. Gorecki once again sneaking away, looking for a drink. We'll have to see if he can get some mana here. It's going to be really important for the boys. Cubsy almost completely tapped here, so if the boys can get that as a mana lead, it's going to be really crucial for the matchup. Snuts getting low as he gets bursted down, potentially. Could be the dispersion. Gorecki moves in for the crowd control on Cubsy. It's not over yet for Snuts. Could be his Void Shift moving forward. Smexon and Chun-Li still trying to reconnect on the Snuts. Cubsy does get out of the crowd control. Innervate active and easily catch up Snuts here, potentially. As Gorecki moves in, they have the damage to potentially take Snuts down. Cubsy looking to deflect it with the Iron Bark, but I don't know if that's potentially going to be enough.
It may not be, as Chun-Li gets bursted. Touch of Karma forced to be traded. Now he's a huge vulnerability moving forward into dampening. Mana is starting to even out. It's still anyone's match here in game number 5 in the upper bracket between the two tied top teams at 300 points apiece. This tournament will allow one of them to get ahead of the other. It's very important for seeding moving into the spring finals LAN later this year. We're already on cup number 4. There's only 2 more cups left. You definitely need to secure as many points as possible. Good denial by Wealthy Man there onto the Cyclone of Gorecki, now opening an opportunity to kill Chun-Li, locking him down in center field with a bash. Wealthy Man gets peeled away by Smexen. Good defense on his part, stalling out a dangerous moment for his team.
That's a little bit in trouble there, but Cubsy does manage to keep him alive with that Iron Bark. Now Wealthy Man getting swapped to him. This is what we kind of talked about, the boys switching between Snuts and Wealthy Man, forcing Cubsy to heal multiple targets and gives him an opportunity to get this kind of burst damage down. Wealthy Man blinks away, gets gripped back in by Smexen into the Fist of Fury of Chun-Li. Wealthy Man has to hold on. We've seen greedy plays from him so far in this matchup, but it has paid off. Wealthy Man also almost has his Icy Veins available. That's going to be a huge offensive push for Super Frogs when they decide to pull the trigger with that.
Whoa!
Chun-Li getting bursted down, no touch of Karma. Fortifying Brew looking to deflect the kill for now. Has the diffuse magic if he really needs it. Mana quite even still at this point, Sid.
Yeah, it's anyone's match at 20% dampening, and that's 20% healing reduction, and it just keeps getting higher and higher. Eventually somebody will be going down, and it's at this point too close to call. Wealthy Man still has 2 ice blocks, potentially a lead for Super Frogs. Gorecki is now basically tapped on mana. It's going to be do or die. Potentially Gorecki just needs to go and get into the fight, deal some damage, and try and close this fight. He's trying to drink right now. Does anyone see him? I don't think anyone sees Gorecki. How much mana did he actually get is now the real question. He jumps in, lands a stun, got a significant amount of lead. Clutch drink by Gorecki, keeping his team in the fight here, trying to reverse sweep the Super Frogs. 3 in a row would be absolutely unbelievable. And if you're in the lower bracket, you're definitely terrified if either of these teams end up going down there. Now Cubsy's tapped. Gorecki has a lead. Snuts is getting bursted. Double stun lock combo by the boys. Nets them a dispersion as well as a bark skin. Cubsy prematurely expecting a swap, but they didn't actually commit it, so that's a bit of a throwaway on his bark skin. It may not result in too much, but we're out to see if it plays out, if the boys look to punish that.
Yeah, Gorecki once again looking for a re-stealth. He moves in, looking for crowd control, and Cubsy manages to find him in stealth with the stun lock. Now Snuts in trouble. He doesn't have a trinket. If he gets caught into a stun, he could go down without the void shift once again. He's getting lower. He gets interrupted. He might potentially go down if they have the burst. Gladiator safeguard procs as well. Iron Bark from Cubsy, but if you look, Cubsy, he has no mana left. How is he going to keep Snuts alive? Innervate, the last thing Cubsy really has available to get additional healing out onto Snuts. Chun-Li and Smexen both rotting down as well. Wealthy Man creating huge amounts of counter pressure for his team. Gorecki has to respond with his own Iron Bark. Fortifying Brew gets traded up by Chun-Li. They want to stay on target. Snuts getting lower. If they can get the void shift here, it's going to be huge for the boys.
They're pushing for it, but Chun-Li can't stay in the fight too much longer. He's falling behind. Gorecki's mana is starting to tap out as well, with dampening ramping up to critical mass. Smexen trying to get the kill by himself onto Snuts. Chun-Li rolls over, lands the interrupt, denies the void shift. 1 more second. 1 more second. Snuts barely gets it, and in the meantime, Chun-Li falls on the push. The boys fought it out valiantly, but in the end, the Super Frogs leap ahead.
They managed to bring it all the way to that Game 5, and before we even got to this series,
focus up in this matchup. It looks like Never Lucky, they're going to be bringing in a Wind Walker Death Knight Mistweaver composition. I'm not sure how I like this. I feel like Method Orange, they're going to still have a clear mana advantage with Trill on that Demon Hunter. We'll just have to see exactly what Never Lucky can get done, as it looks like Mez is the main focus point for them. Very early on, getting bursted down. Sea-Doo, you can't make it be that close of a call. We've seen a lot of pressure from Windwalker Death Knight setups onto these Death Knights, and Sea-Doo has sort of struggled with the single target healing to keep him alive.
Yeah, definitely going to be difficult for Sea-Doo. I'm curious to see. Colo is running grapple weapon, so he can remove Mez's weapon and deny Death Strike. Currently active right now with 3 seconds remaining. Mez cannot Death Strike. Zach trying to amplify the damage with that Fist of Fury and really put some pressure down, gripping Sea-Doo in for a double stun. Mez decides to respect the push, trading Icebound Fortitude, but even still starting to falter.
Yeah, a lot of damage. Icebound Fortitude is going to fade. Mez is getting lower and lower. Sea-Doo has to trade out the Spiritling Totem, overlapped with his Ascendance. The pressure from Never Lucky is immense. Method Orange, I can easily see them following. Sea-Doo has to already use his Trinket. Any more crowd control on Sea-Doo, Mez could easily fall, and they're going to have to play very careful.
I mean, since those Bonded Soul healing changes, a lot of healing has been removed from the arena in general, and you can see the healers trying to readjust to that difference here in game number 1. Sea-Doo falling heavily behind, even with Mez respecting the damage and trading quite efficiently. Ended up having to use most of their defensive arsenal just to stay alive, and even still getting pressured to this point. Mez has been unable to use runic power on basically anything but Death Strike to stay alive, whereas Valito is having a lot easier of a time. But Trill is establishing a lead, unless Mez can just go down in that grapple weapon, denying the Death Strike. Darkness If he gets a little bit unlucky, he may go down through it. They managed to stay alive, but the pressure is immense. The only thing not going for Never Lucky is their mana, and of course Trill is building that lead.
When you play against Trill, you are on a timer, no questions about it. Mez and Sea-Doo, they have to stay alive, buy Trill enough time to completely get Colo out of mana, and he's close, but Mez still in a lot of trouble. Really doesn't have too much left to work with. Uses the Asphyxiate on Zac to deny the Fist of Fury damage. If they can consistently lock that down, Mez might be able to survive, but low. Sea-Doo struggling to stay alive. Asphyxiate's done onto Sea-Doo. Mez looking to redirect some of that damage with the anti-magic shell. Still just kiting away.
Oh!
Gets used. Mez has no healing. The grapple weapon coming in huge for Colo. Do they have the damage to close this game out? Mez holding on by a thread. Sea-Doo doing everything he can, looking for the heals. Imprisonment. It looks like Trill coming back to back up Mez, but Mez still not out of it.
Colo just needs to go in aggressive and find the kill within this little window. He's almost out of mana. He has no other choice but to go for aggression, and maybe they take him out. They do. Never Lucky. Maybe lucky here in game number 1. I definitely don't think Method Orange were ready for that.
Favorite teams to actually make that jump into that 4th position to make it to land, and you're starting to see why. This is a team that has never been scared to multi-class, never been scared to try new things, and by George, it seems like they have found an answer. Will Method Orange be able to return pressure this time around? Are we going to see Mez be the tastiest morsel that we ever have seen?
Yep, Sea-Doo gets away from that death grip of Valido. Valido looking for a potential interrupt as he trinkets out of the Hex and Asphyxiate onto Sea-Doo. Good pressure on Mez already, but this is already a way better start for Method Orange. Mez has been able to stabilize, and this has sort of turned into a 2v2 and a 1v1 situation. Colo now with the way the Crane going to be moving forward, trying to add that extra damage onto Mez, but Sea-Doo playing so far back, preemptively healing with the healing waves, and this is kind of what we talked about. Is Method Orange, they're respecting the damage a lot more, trading out earlier on. Trill's already used his darkness. He does not want Mez to fall behind.
Yeah, Sea-Doo's had a game to readjust. He's going to be turreting out healing waves max distance, but he's caught in crowd controls. Never Lucky try to lead the charge. I do believe that Mez has opted to drop Icebound Fortitude for Lichborn so he can more frequently trade a defensive cooldown, but it's one that he cannot activate in a stun, so he needs to be careful as he doesn't have Gladiator's Medallion to access that Lichborn ability. In the meantime, pressure is swinging in favor of Method Orange. Of course, Trill's main objective to be nailing these imprisonments into mana rifts, currently nailing one right now onto Colo. Colo 9 seconds away from Away of the Crane, looking to make a push with that grapple weapon. Good cross crowd control by Never Lucky. They've definitely come prepared here in the upper bracket, looking to tear apart and try and overthrow Storm's 4th place position in points.
Yep, Mez manages to get topped off. All 3 members of Never Lucky low. Colo responds with the Way of the Crane, immediately topping everyone and trying to add that little bit of extra damage. Sea-Doo does respond with the Earthen Shield Totem, but with the beautiful Ring of Peace, Mez potentially could be knocked out of that, but no, he's not going anywhere. With the Lichborn, I think he's immune to those knockback effects, so unfortunately, that counter from Zac isn't going to be doing much to Mez, and he's able to comfortably sit in the defensive wall of Sea-Doo's Earthen Shield Totem.
Yeah, good defense by Method Orange overall. Sea-Doo is expending a lot more mana in this game. He knows he's going to have the lead. He just needs to stabilize Mez and keep him topped off, and has readjusted quite well here in game number 2 against Never Lucky. But of course, Colo is going to be the X factor. He's on the clock. He has to set up the team with grapple weapons and Way of the Crane pushes before he's burned out on mana. Currently engaging in an attack right now. Mez exchanged his defensive cooldowns with that anti-magic shield. Not going to be the most potent against 2 monks. Colo starting to fall behind. The pressure starting to go in favor of Method Orange. Bring a piece to protect Colo. He has to fake cast multiple ranged interrupts. He's going to duck around the corner on the balcony maybe? No, he goes for the Way of the Crane. Colo says, this is it. We got to get a kill. I'm out of mana.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Once again, Sea-Doo deflects with the Earthen Shield Totem. Mez looking to redirect his damage onto Colo. Colo could be in some trouble here. Almost completely tapped on mana. Way of the Crane is going to fade shortly. Life Cocoon, the last line of defense to keep Colo alive, but Trill in hot pursuit. Mez has to just stay alive a little bit longer. Sea-Doo trades out his trinket, still has the Spirit Link Totem if he really needs it. Mez could be a little bit vulnerable here, but Never Lucky, they're running out of time quickly.
They actually got the Spirit Link Totem. This could be a race to the finish. Mez is still getting pressured even without Colo's assistance. That next grapple weapon, Mez down at half. No trade for 5. managing to stay alive anyway. Sea-Doo expending a lot of mana to recover through that. That needed to be the kill for Colo. I mean, look at his mana. It is not looking good. His health is down to half. Mez is building pressure onto the 2 other targets as well. Trill needs to try and solo Colo before Mez goes down. Sea-Doo's almost tapped now. He's caught into a stun. Do they have a paralysis out of this leg sweep is the real question. Doesn't look like it. Sea-Doo activating that Maledict, trying to really lead the charge for the team. Colo's falling behind. He's just begging for that Mana Tea to come off cooldown so he can hopefully get enough mana for one more wave of the Crane, because they're going to need it to try and get a kill, I think.
They have the life cocoon, but Colo completely tapped on mana, activating every man for himself to get out of that final stun. He wants to hold on to this last little bit of mana. In desperation, the life cocoon comes out from Colo to keep himself alive. Sea-Doo's mana now not looking great. This is still anyone's game, but Mez still has the safety of Trill's darkness if they really need it. Method Orange is looking really good here.
Yeah, it's looking better and better for Method Orange. Colo doing his best to heal with nothing. Grapple weapon attempt here. There's no defense for Mez. Darkness is the last thing. Trill needs to be in position. He moves over. He doesn't trade, and then he leaves Mez behind. This could be dangerous. Trill trying to get aggressive, but leaving Mez behind. Maybe he's fine. Doesn't look like he needs it just yet. Trill just trying to end the game. Colo doing everything he can to stay alive with basically no mana left, doing phenomenally. Bolito and Zach supporting themselves quite effectively as well. Colo kiting around the map, finally getting caught in a stun. Mez still being pressured, and Sea-Doo is suddenly out of mana as well. This is going to be a race to the finish.
Yeah, Colo low. He manages to escape with a Chi Torpedo. Trill in hot pursuit. Mez left all alone. Sea-Doo in a leg sweep. Anti-Magic Style looking to deny. Trill cannot leave Mez again without that darkness. He wants to be able to trade a little bit here. Colo's still left out of mana, but Trill wants to make sure he's not able to comfortably regenerate at any point. Colo actually using his grapple weapon onto Trill, so now Mez is going to be feeling very comfortable to get those death strikes off in order to survive.
Touch of death!
Big burst damage once again. Touch of death goes off from Zach. Mez still in critical condition here at 50% health. Darkness gets traded out, but after that, Method Orange could be in a lot of trouble.
They've got crowd control on the Sea-Doo. Never Lucky could be moving to match point. There's nothing left for Mez. He's just getting destroyed by Never Lucky. Barely hanging on. Sea-Doo gets interrupted. Looking for a Hex. Not able to find that. Colo is basically still tapped on mana, but Mez is still low. Sea-Doo's tapped on mana, and Mez is going to fall first. Never Lucky put Method Orange on match point.
The same target to try to actually take someone down.
We've talked about a lot of different things. We've talked about all of the reasons that Never Lucky doesn't need luck on their side. They just need to keep on going for the plan that they have had. But you need to think about how much this really does shake up North America if we send Method Orange down to that lower bracket. You thought that they were safe in 3rd place. You thought that they were safe to go to LAN. Colo is looking to prove you wrong.
Yep, Colo definitely out for vengeance here against his former teammates, Mez and Trill. It's been a long time coming, but he's got the best opportunity he's ever had to try and smack him down to the lower bracket. Only needed one more win on the board. They're actually going for Sea-Doo, trying to exploit that weakness potentially of it being his alternate healer. They're really cooking up a lot of pressure. Let's see how he deals with it.
Yeah, Sea-Doo kiting away right now in travel form, managing to get away. And one of the problems we're sitting on Sea-Doo for a long time is it allows Mez to consistently spam out the chains of ice, and it can become difficult eventually for the Windwalker Monk to stay on target. Trill still just going to be sitting on Colo, trying to run him out of mana as soon as possible. Sea-Doo trades out basically everything. He's already used his Trinket, now Iron Bark, Bark Skin as well, not available. If they can get another stun on Sea-Doo, I could easily see him falling.
Ring of Peace pinning Sea-Doo back into the opposing team as he tries to jump to safety. No death grip for Bolito. Zach and Bolito getting peeled away by Mez. Sea-Doo makes his getaway. Colo rolls in. Maybe he's going to hold Sea-Doo down because, I mean, 15 more seconds on that bar skin. If Sea-Doo gets stunned out of bear form, he could easily die. He gets into bear form right before that stun. They still have darkness to rely on. It's unlikely that we see Sea-Doo go down, but the pressure is mounting. It's all on Sea-Doo's shoulders to try and keep his team in the upper bracket.
Yet Zach commits the touch of karma. They're looking to go all in, as well as the way of the crane from Colo to top off his team. Sea-Doo in a lot of trouble. He has the Iron Bark. Is he going to trade it out? They're all over him. Can he get away? He's in bear form, cutting through a lot of this damage. Mez trying to do everything he can. Now a full stun on Sea-Doo outside of bear form, but with that Iron Bark, he should be sitting quite comfortably.
Yep, that mana lead establishing itself. Method Orange just have to stall and stay alive. But will they be able to? Never Lucky are relentless in their assaults. These Rings of Peace have been perfect, pulling Sea-Doo back into the team and allowing all 3 members of Never Lucky to connect. And it's all about uptime and staying on target. But a triple stun secured for Trill. The counter pressure will be high for Method Orange as the opposing team stacks up as well. We see multiple players low on health. Colo with not much mana remaining, not many defense as well for Zach. How is he going to make it out of this? He needs to abort. He ports, but he ports in line of sight. Trill moves over, not able to take him down. down. Colo recovers. He's got one more Way of the Crane left in the bank. This Way of the Crane needs to get a kill, but it would be a throw for Method Orange to go down to it.
Yeah, nicely done by Mez to keep him alive. Zach all over, has the ride the wind available for Valito and Colo as all three members looking to take down Sidu. It is do or die for Never Lucky. They have to get a kill here with this final push. Imprisonment on Colo denies a lot of his damage. Sidu in bear form with the preemptive Iron Bar. Can he survive? He has a few more seconds. Darkness gets
Ring of Peace.
down. Ring of Peace. Sidu's still in a lot of trouble. Barksian is just looking to get away. Another Ring of Peace denies. Sidu has to hold on just a little bit longer. Does he manage to escape and get away? Zach there to reconnect with the touch of death. Sidu's so scared at this point.
I mean, he could easily fall at any point. That touch of death is about to explode. It's going to do huge damage. Colo's done it. Colo has done it. Never Lucky going to be 3-0ing the reigning BlizzCon champions, Method Orange.
Colo is going to be able to pull Sidu apart, the man that took his spot with his former teammates. Colo is going to stay in the top side of the bracket. The reigning Blizz Method Orange potentially, but now we're going to see RMPal once again coming out on the Paladin. Let's see what he's able to get done here. Mew Mew Kitty Cats.
Yeah, I actually don't mind this composition from the boys. Jamili actually locking in the Arcane Mage, and I think the Demon Hunter is a little bit better of an answer than that Death Knight. Since he has so much mobility, the range interrupt is really going to be able to slow down Jamili if he has to in this matchup.
I'm very curious to see how RMPal performs here, going back to the bread and butter, that Rogue Mage Paladin that we know and love from the former team of the Rejects. Now Mew Mew Kitty Cats here. Game 1, lower bracket. The boys off the back of a 2-3 loss to the Super Frogs. Definitely might be feeling some pain from that loss, but bringing in Thugonomics, seeing his debut with that Demon Hunter here today. That Mana Rift is going to be super effective. Chun-Li getting isolated and bursted down. Multiple defensive cooldowns pulled from the boys early on, and this Mage Rogue is definitely putting up the pressure.
Chun-Li's used everything. The boys, they don't have a single defensive cooldown left besides the Darkness. Chun-Li still having to run away as all three members of M2KC charging in. Kidney shot now secured on Chun-Li with the smoke bomb. Kleptomania.
Well then.
And that's it.
Well met.
M2KC, immense pressure.
Most is over Seth. Usually we see this composition with a Windwalker from the Mew Mew Kitty Cats, but now they are playing it with a Rogue, and it looks even better.
Yeah, I mean, the last Paladin that we saw grab a win was Zach, and he was playing Monk. We don't see many Paladins here. RMPal is going to be that last shining light. Already one win for M2KC. Will they be able to get on match point against the boys?
You see RMPal getting stunned up by the team of the boys. Curious if Thugonomics is actually running Mana Rift in this build. He's definitely not really been one to enjoy that strategy overall, and he actually is not running the Mana Rift. So Thugonomics and Chun-Li are going to be more focused on burst windows and setup opportunities. They don't have that guaranteed mana victory, and right now Thugonomics is falling behind, exchanging Blur for this initial attack. Counterspell also nailed by Jamili, putting Thugonomics further behind and likely going to cost them an Iron Bark here if the Spell Steals can come in and steal some of those heal over time effects. Greki's spending a lot of time in cat form. A little bit disrespectful, but does manage to stabilize. I love the swaps that are happening right now from M2KC. Very important again in this Resto Druid meta that you're switching targets frequently.
Yeah, definitely really important. And one thing to note as well, for Mew Mew Kitty Cats, the reason they're in the lower bracket right now is they had a close series against the boys earlier on in this tournament. It was a 3-2 series, and that's what sent them there. So picking up that first win in this matchup, obviously going to be very important for M2KC. Jamili getting targeted down right now. They're trying to slow him down just a little bit, but I know Thugonomics might not like the playstyle of Mana Rift, but that definitely plays into one of the win conditions the boys have available. And without that talent, I feel like the boys are potentially throwing away a huge opportunity.
We know Thugonomics for big Chaos Bolts. He loves just getting aggressive and doing tons of damage, so it's not surprising to me that he refuses to play that stall-based tactic Demon Hunter play. He's never done that. He's always been the Fel Barrage Demon Hunter, although in this case, Fel Barrage not going to be a viable option, but always about burst and coordinating with Chun-Li in the past, so it's not surprising to see him go for this aggressive strategy. But when facing a Paladin, I agree, Mana Rift would just secure you the game into the late stages, so even though you don't burst down a target, you can just win on mana. Jamili has been nailing multiple counter spells. That blue icon next to Gareki means he can't heal while it is up there on the screen. Unfortunately, no damage to follow it up. The pressure from M2K is much lower this time around. They're playing it more patiently. They've held on to Arcane Power. Now pulling the trigger on Vendetta, dropping down a smoke bomb. Chun-Li immediately responds. Thugonomics backs them up, and now Roasties is the one falling behind. They switch to Jamili after evasion is activated. Pressure on 2 points. Jamili gets knocked down out of line of sight, able to blink back to RubCub's side. Gorecki now moving across the map to get to the boxes, so he doesn't need to deal with RubCub. RubCub sees him trying to escape in hot pursuit, looking likely for a Hammer of Justice. RubCub chasing Gorecki, but Gorecki restells. RubCub trinkets and responds. Immediately Iron Barks, but overlaps with a touch of karma. I think it was a necessary overlap. Nice sap out of the Hammer of Justice there by Roasties as they look to close this game out on map number 2. Triple stun by Thugonomics, stalls it out. Darkness saves the day, but now having burned through basically every major defensive cooldown, Chun-Li needs to be careful.
Yeah, he definitely does, and Jamili still has the Arcane Power available. Gorecki with really no response, but M2KC, although they had a nice setup, they are falling a little bit behind here. RubCub has to play catch up. Now full bash secured onto Jamili. This could be his first and potentially only ice block of the game. Greater invisibility, going to be trying to stall that out, but unfortunately now overlapped with the ice block. Jamili does not have many defensives left in order to survive, and things are starting to really stabilize here for the boys.
Yeah, the boys have that mana advantage, which is what we expect with the Druid versus Paladin matchup. Let's see, they've got the ice block out of the way. Roasties is an exposed target. It's really not looking too good for M2KC right now, and they're in desperation. They go for a swap on Gorecki. With that Feral Affinity, I'm surprised that they haven't attempted this sooner. You can definitely burst him down. Huge damage, Ring of Peace. Will that be enough to stabilize? I would just like to see them train Gorecki now for the rest of the game. Spam Spell Steal and just finish him off. Really punish that Feral Affinity. He definitely can. His Rogue Maids are trying to stay on target. Gorecki doing everything he can, placing that Efflorescence, that green circle. Cannot be spell stolen. Trying to access as many heal over time effects as possible. Managing to escape, but one more swap to him, and they could close the game out. They don't have much time to do it, though.
Yeah, but Roasties does have the Vendetta, so if they can find that swap, they can definitely close out the game. Thugonomics now into a polymorph. Jamili getting low. RubCub has to keep him alive. He still has his Divine Shield, but may not have the healing. Ultimate Sacrifice going to be used to keep Jamili alive. Roasties looking to reconnect onto Gorecki, but you can see Chun-Li, he's playing a solid defense, making sure him and Gorecki are staying together in this situation. Roasties gets the full kidney shot, but Jamili's not there to really get any damage rolling. Unfortunately, that kill attempt was wasted by M2KC. Now RubCub potentially completely out of mana. Jamili still getting taken down. Has to activate the Temporal Shield as he's kiting away, but now it just seems like M2KC, they're not confident in pushing in. Jamili doesn't have the defensive abilities he really needs to stay alive, and they're just not getting a coordinated assault against the boys.
I mean, there's no window. It was lost. They needed to kill Gorecki on that last push. Now all defense available. I guess they've managed to now get the Glider's Medallion. Roasty's getting it. And I mean, it's do or die. They have to kill Gorecki. It's the only option, and I'm sure that Gorecki knows that. He's just going to max out his heal over time effect, stay out of line of sight, and it's unlikely that Roasty can solo him. Jamili looking to go down here in game number 2 as the boys bite back.
The boys are going to be able to turn it, is going to be able to fish up a win. The boys are M2KC. Whoever does get this one finds themselves on match point.
All right, RubCub's all in game 1 got them a win on the board, but now the boys are back in town and their defense looks solid in game number 2 as they tie this series up 1-1. This is an elimination round, best of 5. Right now, the boys are looking to try and stay alive in the tournament so that they can keep their first place position, which is tied with the Super Frogs, whereas M2KC need to battle it out for that 4th place spot, and there's really a lot of teams gunning for it, and there's no space really. They need a good performance. They look solid in game 1. They're looking solid here in game 3, forcing multiple defensive cooldowns early on from the boys.
Yeah, but Chun-Li has managed to stay on target, and he still has that touch of karma. This needs to be really careful, because like we kind of talked about, the Blessing Protection counters that. Chun-Li getting low. Darkness gets traded out by Thugonomics very early on. The boys do not want to fall behind, and I like the fact that they are respecting these offensive cooldowns coming in from M2KC. And the boys are going to be completely healthy here. Gorecki actually, though, he's playing Relentless, so he's caught into this blind, but it doesn't look like there's any real opportunity. A follow-up Sapa with Chun-Li out of line of sight. I think he should be able to survive. Finally, Roasties manages to secure the kidney shot. Chun-Li trades out the touch of karma, but immediately line of sights, and I like that play. Blessing and Protection does get used. Now Chun-Li just on the run.
Yeah, he's focusing much more on defense this time around. allowing Gorecki to breathe, and with that relentless pick, crowd control will be reduced more significantly throughout the match, and as long as Chun-Li can kite and avoid damage during that critical blind moment, then the boys have more opportunities to avoid crowd control as a result. Jamili falling behind. Oh, that imprisonment 1 second away by Thuganomics, a misfire. That could have been crucial in getting in an ice block. Thuganomics definitely doesn't want to be looking to make a mistake like that again. Mana actually ahead for RMPal, which is surprising, and this could be due to the focus growth changes, with Jamili mashing out so many spell steals.
Well, it's just a lot of pressure on Chun-Li, and I really like them going after him instead, but Jamili could be in some trouble. Chun-Li forced to use this Transcendence to get behind the pillar, look to run away, just trying to avoid damage at all costs. I really feel like Chun-Li is the only viable kill target here for Mew Mew Kitty Cats. Rossi's forced to trade out the evasion and feint as they make a swap on him. Thuganomics just looking to create huge pressure for his team. Jamili finally left alone in order to get some damage out, but Chun-Li wants to shut that down. Gorecki moving in, looking for some damage, finds a bash onto Jamili, now a vulnerable target. But like you said, Sid, with RMPal still having a mana lead, Mew Mew Kitty Cats are still in this.
Yeah, the swapping, the spell steals, this Arcane Mage from Jamili is definitely an X factor in the tournament. Cross crowd control initiation, it looks good. 8 seconds away from that touch of karma. It's a race to the finish. No Glarius Medallion for Gorecki. Chun-Li needs to run, ducking for cover. Roasty's in hot pursuit though. Paralysis by Chun-Li. Not going to set up with a leg sweep. Jamili blinks into the fight, looking to try and finish the job. RMPal with still a mana lead at this point. Chun-Li has trades. I don't believe there's a Blessing of Protection. There may be one more left for RMPal. We'll have to wait and see. Jamili is definitely ahead on cooldowns. They're ahead of mana. Nice polymorph attempt here by Jamili as they look to close. Blessing of Protection immediately removes it, and M2KC snipe out game 3.
We got to start calling them the Mew Mew.
The Fire Mage assassination, they've tried all these different things, and now they seem to have something that kind of works here for them. But I think the boys, they should look maybe to get Smexin in instead of Chun-Li and play the DK DH, similar to what we see from Method Black. It removes a lot of that weakness, essentially, of having that Windwalker who is relying on the touch of karma, which can be Blessing of Protected away.
Yeah, and ultimately now we have our underdogs trying to be cast amongst the pigeons, not only on Hook Point, but throughout the entire bracket. If we see the Mew Mew Kitty Cats manage to pull off a victory here, it will be felt throughout the entire region, through this tournament and the standings.
The boys are tied for first place right now, 300 points between the Super Frogs, but they face elimination here and now against M2KC. A lot of the defense has already been cracked as Roasties tries to close this out here and now. 5 more seconds. Chun-Li retreating away, but Roasties in hot pursuit. Jamili on his back. Blinding Light could easily close this fight as they try to reconnect. RMPal leads the charge, adding huge bonus damage to the fight. Gorecki connects in Iron Bark, stabilizing Chun-Li. For now, it's a close call here on match point for the boys.
Yeah, Jamili's still finding the damage, and Chun-Li in a lot of trouble. He gets caught into the kidney shot. Iron Bark's going to fade very shortly. Gorecki into the Hammer of Justice once again. Chun-Li left all alone. He's trying to kite away, but all 3 members are on top of him. Transcendence out of line of sight, looking for some Vivifies. Gorecki finally manages to connect some more heals. Chun-Li stabilizes, but at the expense of basically everything the boys have available.
All right, just take a deep breath. Boys, you guys need to slow down because that was a very close call on match point, and this might just be it. Roasty stun locks Chun-Li during that touch of death, denying a huge burst window and also amplifying a lot of pressure, but now Chun-Li looks to reverse it, crushing out Jamili. A preemptive sacrifice by RMPal before Thuganomics crowd control, perfectly timed, denying any sort of damage. Now Chun-Li, once again on the run, needs to buy 4 more seconds for that touch of karma. He's managed to bide the time. He now has that in exchange to stay alive and potentially move this to game number 5 versus M2KC in the lower bracket. So much on the line between these teams. The boys want to stay in first. M2KC want to crawl into 4th with Storm still in the tournament, holding that 4th place position. They need a good performance. Right now, Roasty's on the back foot, exchanging that evasion to stabilize. Gorecki jumping into the fight, stun locking Jamili, but now Chun-Li stun locked in reverse. Gorecki preempts the attack, activating Iron Bark right before an incoming crowd control, reducing a huge amount of this pressure. Thuganomics tries to back him up, reverse magic, but then walks into a double blinding light. That banks them a touch of karma, and that is the major defensive cooldown for Chun-Li now out of the way. And once again, the boys need to be terrified.
Yeah, it's overlapped with the Fortifying Brew from Chun-Li, so really not too much left except to diffuse magic, and he's going to have to save that for some Maledicts if M2KC has it available. Full kidney shot, spell steal spam coming in. Chun-Li still in a lot of trouble, and if we look at mana, Gorecki falling further and further behind. The boys, they need to try to find some pressure, start working through some of these defensives. Jamili now into a leg sweep, but they can get the ice block here. It's going to be huge. One Maledict connects. Rubcub, can he keep him alive? Rubcub now into a stun. Good crowd control by Gorecki, managing to find the full cyclone onto Rubcub. Jamili still just trying to kite away as he blinks and displaces all over the map to avoid some of this damage.
Jamili doing a great job right now. Gorecki almost tapped on mana. This new strategy that Rubcub's team has brought to the table is definitely proving to be effective here against the boys. Roasty's attempting to close. Jamili double blinks in. He clotheslines Gorecki with a polymorph. Chun-Li needs to survive on his own, kiting across the map. Roasty sprinting after him. Jamili looking to lock down Gorecki, gets denied by Thugonomics. Good backup, but Roasty's is one-on-one-ing Chun-Li. Chun-Li taking the better end of that exchange. Well-timed Turbo Fist, but then Gorecki jumps into the fight and reverses with huge damage. The boys tie it up to game 5.
This time the boys are going to be able to smash the kitty cat. Underway, we jump in as soon as the gates open. Who is going to move forward? Who is going to get eliminated on Ruins of Lordaeron?
Well, Ruins of Lordaeron, as it is a cemetery, would be a fitting final resting place, and the boys are bringing intensity here, unrelenting on this composition, but so far M2KC get the initial attack. They go for the all-in. They remove the touch of karma. Chun-Li desperately escapes to safety. Gorecki breaks out a blind, but they've already burned through lots of their defense, and they're still running low.
Yeah, Chun-Li in a lot of trouble. Gladiator safeguard looking to deflect as Chun-Li's pushing in with his touch of death. Jamili did deflect it quite easily with the temporal shield, but Chun-Li could be in a lot of trouble. Now into a full kidney shot. Gorecki, he doesn't have a trinket. Chun-Li doesn't really have any defense left. He's trying to kite away. The darkness gets dropped out by Thugonomics. That's the last line of defense Chun-Li has to survive, camping through it. Gorecki out of crowd control. Chun-Li should be able to stabilize, but the boys have burned through every single one of their defensives.
This is a huge opening for M2KC. This is the performance that we have been waiting to see. Can they take down the boys in epic PvP? We'll be finding out momentarily as Roasties tries to lead the charge, but then they get reversed with a Cyclone under Rubcub. Jamili now falling behind. The boys battling it back here in game number 5. A lot on the line for both sides. This is an elimination game. The loser of this will be out of the tournament, missing out on a huge opportunity. Jamili has to block. Now M2KC tied on cooldowns in that regard. Still anyone's match.
Yeah, definitely. Chun-Li kiting away preemptively. They got the ice block. That's what they needed. Now they need to survive the next kidney shot. Full Hammer of Justice secured onto Gorecki. Unfortunately, Jamili not playing Ring of Frost, not able to find the follow-up polymorph, and Chun-Li should be completely fine. He has the touch of karma, rotating back up. Roasty's now in a stun. Jamili uses the temporal shield. Rubcub's mana still doing quite well, but Jamili just has been under so much pressure during this game. It's been really struggling for him to... He's been really struggling to find pressure so far in the matchup.
Yeah, definitely a lot more focus on Jamili, trying to deny maybe some of the spell steals, but Gorecki gets caught. Critical moment, reverse magic, good backup by Thugonomics, but he gets another polymorph. Rubcub moves in position. Does he have that Hammer of Justice? Doesn't look to be the case. Mana in favor of Rubcub, but only slightly. No major lead in that regard. Gorecki jumps into the fight, adds some extra damage. We saw him chomp in that last game, and one big ferocious bite could be good night here. How much longer can Rubcub keep his team going? He needs to buy at least 12 more seconds. Can he do it? 10 more seconds to that Avenging Wrath. As soon as he has that, his entire team is likely to go back to full health. They'll have a big window to push for major cooldowns. I'd like to see a swap to Gorecki. Just an all-in Hammer Justice kidney shot. All in, kill Gorecki. I think it would be a wise move, but instead going after Chun-Li, the safe decision. They do manage to preempt 2 defensive cooldowns. They remove the touch of karma. Huge overlap from the boys.
Nice sap from Roasties onto Gorecki out of the Hammer of Justice, and now Chun-Li in so much trouble. The touch of karma gets bopped off. Chun-Li looking to run away, trying to kite back to Gorecki. Do they have the heal? Light comes in. Supernova breaks it. Jamili unfortunately breaks the crowd control, manages to get the polymorph, but that was enough time. Chun-Li got the heal over time effects from Gorecki. He managed to stabilize them. Now things are looking good for the boys.
They've survived the all-ins here. The boys are starting to make it out to the other side. Jamili's getting pressured. Rubcub on the ropes. Ultimate sacrifice, redirecting damage to himself so that Jamili can stay in the fight, but now Rubcub's even falling behind to that redirected pressure. Roasties is dipping low as well. It's not looking good. M2KC, they have to do something, and they have to do it now. They don't have much time left. Gorecki in the backline just needs to play far away from Rubcub. He sneaks maybe into stealth. He's looking to chomp. Touch of Death is ticking away onto Jamili. Will it be enough to take him down? With that temporal shield, Jamili bounces back into the fight, taking control of Thugonomics with the polymorph. Gorecki overextends to dispel it. Rubcub might capitalize on that. Chun-Li slows and stalls the Hammer of Justice. this next crowd control could close the game for either side as they're both completely out of mana and out of time. Jamili gets imprisoned. They're trying to slow down his assault. Gorecki's trying to pause the fight. They need 10 more seconds on that touch of karma. Can the boys buy 10 more seconds? Rubcub's trying to sneak away and drink. He says, okay, if you're going to stall out and play overly defensive, I'm going to regen mana. M2KC might stay in it.
Yeah, definitely. And Jamili only has 1 minute left on his ice block. If they can stall to that point, they're going to be looking very healthy. Full Hammer of Justice secured onto Gorecki. Can Roasties potentially find stab? No, he doesn't have the Vanish, so unfortunate. Won't be able to get that follow-up crowd control. Gorecki does get polyed up, but Thugonomics with the reverse magic does find it. Gorecki into the blind now, Trinket's out. So the next polymorph, there's going to be no reverse magic, potentially no Trinket available, and that is when Chun-Li is going to be in a whole lot of trouble with no touch of karma available. Fortifying Brew already used. Double Ice Sweep coming in from the boys onto Jamili. Temporal Shield deflects this attack. Full Cyclone now secured onto Rubcub. Nicely done by Gorecki as he gets into cat form looking for some damage onto Jamili, but can't afford to stay in cat for too long.
Oh!
Chun-Li's in a lot of trouble.
Huge damage. Thugonomics stalls it out with that darkness. Chun-Li needs to hold out. Gorecki's got no mana. It's starting to spiral out of control for the boys, currently tied in first place as M2KC look to overthrow fourth. They're so close, they need to stay on target. Jamili's trying to make his way over. All 3 members on top of Chun-Li. Fist of Fury denies Roasties, but Jamili's dishing out tons of damage. He gets bashed up. Chun-Li retreats, but Gorecki is crowd controlled. Chun-Li is all alone, so far away from the fight. Roasties, Rubcub, Jamili all closing in on him. There's no mana left. There's no cooldowns left, and Rubcub has done it. The last paladin in the darkness, the last shining light shines bright.
And they are going to be able to claw their way
to be their bread and butter. This is their comfort pick. They're always looking for Trill to be landing these mana rifts, looking for a late game advantage, trying to secure the mana lead very early on.
Yeah, let's see if they can do it. Their stall-based tactics didn't work in the upper bracket as Colo was able to 3-0 Method Orange earlier today, but now in the lower bracket they have an opportunity at redemption. We do see the mana rift strategy already being employed by Trill. It's going to be a ticking clock for Metaphor's mana bar. Can the team of Storm counter-aggress before that clock runs out?
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see who Nesper's going to be going after in this matchup. Full blind secured onto Sea-Doo. He trinkets out immediately. So now any crowd control could be devastating for Method Orange if they can find it. Metaphors with the Thorns forcing Trill back a little bit, but a grip into a double Chaos Nova. Nice setup here for Method Orange. Metaphor's mana is not doing well. He's already 60%. Trill's been doing a great job consistently landing those rifts so far, but Mez now could be in a little bit of trouble with the Infernals dropped as well. That's the Dark Soul used by Maldiva.
Yeah, Maldiva trying to counter-aggress. Huge hit on Mez. No trade just yet. Anti-magic shield, instant stabilization here for Method Orange. Surprisingly though, no mana advantage as Trill is sitting far in the back in a mass entanglement likely, so nice talent decision there. Trill is not running reverse magic, so long as Metaphors drags Trill out of line of sight, he will be sitting extended crowd control with that mass entanglement talent choice. But with that Ghoul running at Metaphors as well, it's unlikely that he will ever drop combat in order to drink and regenerate mana. So it's basically up to Maldiva and Nesper to kill Mez before Metaphors runs out of mana. Now that lead has established itself here early on as we get closer to dampening.
Yeah, when a Chaos Bolt lands on Mez, that gives him significant healing on his Death Strike, but now into a Kidney Shot, kind of loses that opportunity. Sea-Doo runs into the Smoke Braum, drops the Earthen Shield Totem, and Mez should be able to survive, healing himself back up once again. Potentially, we'd like to see Nesper and Maldiva look for a swap onto Sea-Doo if they can. Doesn't seem like their pressure on the Mez so far has been significant, and Metaphors is slowly but surely running out of mana. I'm not exactly sure where the opening here is for Storm.
Good response by Sea-Doo during that smoke bomb, not overreacting and overcommitting his defensive lineup. Definitely not looking shooken up from their first series of the day here in game number 1. Just playing it out methodically, putting Metaphors on that clock. Maldiva, though, managed to sneak in a fear on Sea-Doo, trying to develop more pressure off the back of it. Manages to pull anti-magic shield from Mez, but really no major defense forced on the side of Method Orange, and it's really Metaphors that is starting to falter with all 3 members of the team down to half health. Limited mana left in the tank. Nesper pulls away to try and assist by stunning up Trill, but Trill doesn't even care. He's immediately going back onto target, trying to gun down Metaphors. Metaphors needs to be careful. He stacks up on his team. It could be a triple stun and triple cleave, which with his current mana status is unlikely to recover. Constantly getting stun locked. At least Nesper and Maldiva have stabilized. We do see a blind play. Sea-Doo trinkets out. So maybe what I would like to see from Storm is a swap to Sea-Doo, try an all-in KO, because everything else is just slipping away.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see as well. And Rasidu just basically automatically trading out his Trinket for blind. There is an opportunity, but Mez with the Death Grip, he has a lot of interrupts from Maldiva as well as the anti-magic zone. They have the defense that they need. Method Orange, basically, they just need to play it out intelligently here. They have all the tools that they need to close out this game. A nice swap over onto Trill as Gladiator Safeguard does proc, keeping him alive. Blur is going to be activated as well as Trill looks to try to get back onto Metaphors. I'm not sure if Metaphors actually got any mana back. I don't believe he did, so still hovering around 25% mana, but if you look, Sidu's actually falling behind as well. He's not going to have an opportunity to sneak away for a drink, and if Metaphors can hold on a little bit longer, I could definitely see them closing out this game.
Beautiful Cataclysm timing by Maldiva. That's going to get him a lot of immolates for soul shards. He's falling behind, though. He needs to start counter-aggressing with that huge resource gain that he was able to secure. Double Mortal Coil, looking to build up for a huge Chaos Bolt, but there are multiple points to deny it. He's going to have to get through all those interrupts. He gets through one. He gets through the second. There's no third available. One Chaos Bolt sneaks through onto Sidu as Nesper sets up a swap. Sidu trades appropriately, but expends the remainder of his mana. Multiple pressure points here. Multiple defensive cooldowns forced as well, and suddenly Storm stay alive in this fight.
Yeah, Method Orange is falling apart. Sidu into the kidney shot. Trill forced to trade out the darkness. What is Sidu going to do? He has the Spirit Link, the last line of defense. Gets into Ghost Wolf, going to be running and hiding behind the pillar. That Pack Spirit doing work to keep Sidu alive, but now with no mana left, he might really struggle to keep Mez alive. Trill looking to get the last little bit of mana from Metaforce, who wasn't able to get a drink. Now activating Barkskin, Ironbark, as well as the Thorns. So Metaforce with really no defense left, and Mez and Trill can connect onto Metaforce. They could surely take him down, but once again, it looks like it's going to be Mez on Maldiva and Nesper, and Trill still chasing down Metaphors. The split strategy from Method Orange seems to be working so far, but we've seen them really struggle to actually land a kill with the strategy.
I mean, both teams' compositions are weaker on the sides in terms of execution and finally putting someone down. They're great at stalling out. They're great for consistent pressure, but when it comes to actually killing somebody, both of these compositions, that's their major weakness, which is why we see these teams unable to just put that little bit of an oomph left in the game to take somebody down. Blind attempt here by Nesper, but it's the team of Storm on the back foot with all three members in danger. No mana left in the tank. Still multiple defense available for Method Orange as they are going to close this out shortly, I do believe. Maldiva doesn't have much. Metaphors tries to trade, but he still doesn't have anything really to work with, just hoping for Omen of Clarity regrowths, but not finding that opportunity, and Method Orange finally bank out victory. It was starting to not look so good, but they kept it together.
To have one win to work with in this series.
Yeah, if Storm can pull off this series, they may be able to overthrow Method Orange on the point standings, which would be huge. Obviously, Mew Mew Kitty Cats also battling to try and pass Storm themselves. So if you're Mew Mew Kitty Cats, you're rooting for Method Orange. You want them to just keep gaining points so that you can then pass Storm in the standings. Of course, they're not going to have control of that fate. It's entirely in the hands of the players in this series, but it's an elimination one, and it looks like Method Orange want to go after the healer Metaphors. Let's see how he handles it.
Yeah, Method Orange, they have to hold on tight. Claiming this series is so important for this team if they want to secure their third place spot right now, or potentially move into second or first. Completely missing out on the first tournament, basically getting no points whatsoever. Every single one of these matches for Method Orange is increasingly important. Now kidney shot onto Trill. I think he should be fine, but he gets interrupted. Decent pressure here for Storm off the back of the Infernals and the Dark Soul, but once those cooldowns fade from Maldiva, that's going to be Sidu's opportunity to recover with his Ascendance, and I think now he should be fine. Still, Trill going after Metaphors, looking to just burn him out of mana as soon as he can. Metaphor's already down to around 60%. He needs to start trying to do a better job of avoiding these, potentially running away, creating some distance, because if Trill can just play on top of the entire team, not only does he get the added benefit of consistently being on top of Metaphors to get the mana rest, but he also gets to help Mez out, get some cleave damage onto Maldiva and Nesper, which is going to tax Metaphor's mana even more.
So the main strategy for Team Storm, at least Metaphors and Maldiva, is to position so that Sidu has to move in and stand on top of his team. If they can position this way, then Nesper can have Fan of Knives hitting 3 targets and boost his damage. Smoke Bomb forces Sidu to make a decision. Does he run into the Smoke Bomb? Instead, Mez uses Icebound Fortitude to break out of it and run into line of sight. It's basically all up to Sidu to stay as far away from the fight as possible so that Nesper cannot benefit from this Flying Daggers build. And as long as Sidu can keep good positioning, then Trill's mana rifts should inevitably secure them victory.
Yep, Trill manages to find Metaphors. Metaphors with a nice root onto Trill. You can see Trill stuck very far away, and I think if Metaphors can consistently do that, that's another way for him to escape and preserve his mana. Decent pressure here onto Maldiva. Mez has been doing work in the meantime when Trill's been caught far away. And this is basically what we've seen so far. Mez and Sea-Doo, they're against Maldiva and Nesper, whereas Metaphors and Trill are having their own little 1v1. And until Metaphors is out of mana, we don't normally see Trill come back and assist on damage. For now, he's going to be able to. Sea-Doo moving forward, looking to stop any potential drink from Metaphors. If Metaphors can ever regenerate mana, we saw what a close call it was in the last game on the Grand Arena. Sea-Doo was basically completely tapped on mana at the same time as Metaphor. So if we ever see Metaphors get away, regenerate mana, that could potentially be a lead for them. Big damage now on Mez, as it looks like Storm is able to secure some pressure.
Gladiator Safeguard going to save Mez. Metaphor's now under fire once again by Trill. Sea-Doo moving forward as well with 2 members chasing him down. It's basically impossible for him to regenerate mana. Unfortunate fear pathing for Mez as he's feared across the entire map. No Dispel for him. That does slow down the damage a bit for Metaphors to recover, which is fortunate times for Storm here in game number 2 as they try to tie it up. But I would say overall that it is not looking good for them. Sea-Doo has a significant lead at this point. We're not even into dampening, and they were trying to take the small map advantage to boost Nesper's damage, but even that doesn't seem to be enough. I don't think this strategy is going to work for them. They're going to need a miracle.
At this point, they definitely will, and they almost had one on the Grand Arena when we saw them so far behind again on the Destruction Warlock with those 2 offensive cooldowns, both the Infernal and the Dark Soul. That's an opportunity for Maldiva to really boost his damage up and push through some of these defensives that Mez has available. AMS now not available for Mez. That anti-magic shell, sorry, the AMS, yeah, the anti-magic shell is not going to be available for Maldiva if he does use the Dark Soul, so potential opening there, but Sea-Doo with every defensive. Method Orange is going to be feeling quite healthy.
Yeah, Method Orange are in a solid position to get victory here on game number 2. Just slow and steady wins the race. Sea-Doo getting Chaos bolted by Maldiva as they are getting a bit cheeky. Maybe trying to open up some windows of opportunity to swap to him at some point. But Metaphors' clock is ticking. There's not much mana remaining. Maldiva tries to set up some damage, gets denied by Sea-Doo. Trill still keeping up the chase. Nesper now getting pressured as well with 2 members low. This innervate timing is critical. Metaphor's getting free healing. Gets denied now by Trill's Fell Eruption. That bonus free healing lost as Metaphors is on the run, but I'm not sure how much longer this kitty can run away from the fight. Double Capacitator Totem pinning down 2 members. Metaphor's really starting to struggle.
Yeah, it definitely is. Mez in a kidney shot. Sea-Doo trying to respond. Mez has to run out of that in that smoke bomb. He's not going to be able to receive any healing from Sea-Doo. That does fade. Now Sea-Doo finally has an opportunity to get some heals onto Mez. As Trill still in pursuit, caught into some fears. Metaphors actually might have regenerated some mana there. He did sit down for a little bit, got a little bit of his mana back, but really nothing significant. Trill still finding mana rifts onto Metaphors consistently, and Trill has been on that Demon Hunter, one of the best Demon Hunters we've seen to land those mana rifts, and it's been a strategy that Method Orange really has been focusing on more so than really any other team we've seen besides Method Black over in Europe, and it's really been a big part of their success so far in these cups.
All right, Trill just chasing down Metaphors. Mez building up momentum on 2 other targets so that Metaphors has to expend mana to heal 3 members and likely tap him completely out at that point. I'm looking for openings on the side of Storm. What can they get done? Now, I don't really see anything of significance. They have to still get through Sea-Doo's Gladiator's Medallion. They're blind to do that, but they need to survive. Even that is looking to be impossible at this point, with Maldiva on 5% health, trying to turn it around with some Chaos Bolts, but not even finding that. Tremor Totem denies the fear. Maldiva gates to safety, but is it really that safe? Mez finally getting counter-pressured by Nesper, trying to put the team on his back, but Sea-Doo denies that kill window with a Spirit Link Totem, connects a huge heal on that Ascendance, and Maldiva is likely to fall here in game 2. There's just simply no mana left in the tank. Mind Freeze secures the kill. Method Orange advanced to match point.
And Method Orange just looking like they know exactly.
There's even a diminishing return on the disarm effect, so maybe they could use a grapple weapon and a dismantle then from Nesper and the potential Mistweaver that way. So we'll see what they end up going for. It looks like they're going for Mez.
Something needed to change. Let's see if this warrior can get it done.
See if the dice roll. 666s. Dismantle is selected for Nesper. Looking for a Death Knight counter comp strategy here from Storm. Even though it's very peculiar to see a pirate and an arms warrior battle together, this may be an answer to the Death Knight menace that Method Orange have brought to the composition. But Nesper on the back foot with Metaphors lockdown and crowd control, potentially closing this out in seconds. Storm are on match point. They've got an opportunity to overthrow Method Orange if they can win 3 games in a row, but this composition smells like desperation.
Yeah, and Mez with Chains of Ice is going to be super effective at kiting both Nespers and Sheepy Boy when he's not caught in crowd control. Nesper taking quite a bit of damage once again. Metaphor is having to play catch-up, but his mana's not looking well. The pressure from Method Orange is really high in this matchup. Sea-Doo so far has been able to keep Mez nice and stable. I don't know if this comp's really working out for Storm. Metaphor is falling further and further behind as he kites away, potentially looking for a drink. Pistol stun onto Sea-Doo, as well as a grapple weapon onto Mez. Mez is going to be getting a little bit low, but all three members of Storm just falling apart here.
This looks terrible for Storm. There's no mana left already? Already? He can't even stay alive to Trill. There's no support at all in this composition. They were expecting to burst somebody down, but the defense can't be cracked. Method Orange should close this out securely. So much momentum in their favor. Blind attempt, they pull Sea-Doo's trinket. If they don't swap to Sea-Doo and kill him 100, there's no other opportunity. They're just all dead. Sheepy Boy gets stun locked. He's likely to fall. Sea-Doo could purge if he really wants to. And Sheepy Boy falls. This desperate pull by Storm pulls nothing.
Storm wanted to
Positionally are favored, but you can never count RubCub out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see what kind of pressure Mew Mew Kitty Cats can establish early on. Method Orange, they're likely going to be going with the mana rift strategy once again. How long can RubCub hold on to that precious mana? And RubCub's actually not using Relentless, which is what we normally see healers opt to use against a Demon Hunter that's going after those mana rifts. Instead, we see Mew Mew Kitty Cats are actually going to be pressuring Trill in order to deny a lot of those mana rifts. It's when he gets the stuns on RubCub, he gets kidney shot by Roasties. He basically doesn't have the time to actually land those mana rifts, and RubCub can hold on to his mana for a long time.
Method Orange deny the all-in with an equivalent exchange of defensive cooldowns, no overlap on that front, and M2KC definitely relying on Method Orange to make mistakes in this series to find victory. Mez is gunning down for RubCub's life. Roasties is being pressured by Trill, but now thwarted away in that kidney shot. Jamili setting up tons of arcane blasts, looking to blink on top of Sea-Doo, maybe for a polymorph, but with multiple interrupts right in front of him, it's unlikely that he'll be able to find that. Instead, pulling away from the pillar, maybe looking to drag Sea-Doo out into the open before setting something up, but Mez doesn't seem to care. He's going to engage with a death grip, triple stun. Good combo by both Trill and Mez, really turning up the heat. RubCub manages to get out of there alive at least, securing crowd control for his team as well as they look to strike back on Trill.
Yeah, big damage on Trill with the full polymorph secured on Sea-Doo. Trill might have to trade out his blur or his darkness, but just really relying on a lot of his self-healing right now. Manages to keep himself alive, and as long as Mez and Trill are sitting on top of Jamili, he's not going to be able to get out that much casted damage, and they should remain relatively stable. But in this position, Jamili's been able to spam out a lot of arcane blasts, actually forcing Trill to retreat.
Yep, Trill hiding behind the pillar, pinned down by M2KC. This composition may be the first that they've gone head-to-head with it, but they're keeping their strategy more of the same. Mana Rift, Mana Rift, Mana Rift, and inevitably that is a clock ticking away for RubCub and his team to find a kill. Will they get it before RubCub is tapped out? Right now, pressure on 3 targets. RubCub needs to buy time. He's got another couple seconds, 14 to be exact, until that Avenging Wrath, where he can then bounce his whole team back to full and go for a push. I think it is of utmost importance that Jamili does not overlap his arcane power with Roastie's Vendetta. These two are powerful cooldowns, but can be denied all at once with 1 defensive cooldown on the side of Method Orange. So if they split them up, they will at least get 2 in exchange rather than 1, and maybe create more openings for themselves. Sea-Doo is trying to sit through a blind currently to not open up any swap windows, but then trinkets immediately when Vendetta is committed, but now opens himself up to a Hammer of Justice and potential polymorph. Good crowd control chain initiated by M2KC. Trill denies it with reverse magic, and now Method Orange are pushing.
Yeah, definitely. Jamili's still finding a lot of pressure off the back of those arcane blasts. Roastie's now caught into a stun. Once again, a mana ref secured onto RubCub. And M2KC there running out of time quickly, although RubCub should be able to stay alive with that Avenging Wrath. His mana is not doing well. It's not healthy at this point. Sea-Doo has a massive lead, and Trill slowly but surely with these mana rifts securing an advantage for his team. Now a swap over onto Mez. Smoke Bomb gets dropped out. Can Mez survive? He's able to kite out of it. Sea-Doo finally able to connect a little bit of healing. Good position here by Method Orange, but Mez still has a little bit of catch up here to do.
Yeah, RubCub is just falling so far behind at this point. It's really not looking too good for M2KC. They did show signs of life, taking out the currently tied 300-point earner, the boys, but here against Method Orange, they're just compositionally outmatched. They're going to need a huge hit. Sea-Doo grounds the incoming Hammer of Justice, denying further crowd control from the side. side of M2KC. They're going to need a giant wave push, but without dampening, without having cracked the major objective defensive cooldowns. I see no opening, no light at the end of the tunnel for RubCub, as he is now finally tapped on mana, doing his best with basically nothing. Gripped into the fight by Mez. Trill polymorphed away, at least buying RubCub a couple of seconds to catch some very slow holy lights. RubCub charging across the map. He's just trying to get away from Trill, but moving so slowly. Trill's an inevitability on this reconnect. They stun up Mez, denying some damage, buying more time to breach. Millie ice blocks the Hex, looks to try and reverse with a polymorph, not able to find it. Now does. No reverse magic. They have to get a kill with this polymorph. Who can they go after? They're trying to gun down Mez, but with Death Strike, he just easily deflects. Blind with a few seconds before that Gladiator's Medallion, but still no pressure.
Yeah, this is the point in the game where Mez and Trill can both sort of convene onto Jamili, try to take him down. He has no ice block. RubCub can't afford to go for a drink. He's got Mez's Ghoul on him. That's going to be keeping him in combat. Now Jamili's basically left in this situation where there's nothing left for him. He's getting lower and lower. He's caught into the stun. Rossi's trying to create some pressure for his team onto Sea-Doo. Oh! The miracle swap that they needed. Can they take down Sea-Doo? Anti-Magic Zone gets traded out. Spearling Totem as well. Method Orange trades out every single thing that they have available. RubCub potentially looking for a drink, but the demonic Terminator Trill just chasing him down, making sure that's never going to happen. And now with, once again, no mana left in the tank, I don't know how Jamili's going to be able to survive.
Yeah, as Avenging Wrath has just faded, Divine Shield trades. Maybe there's an opportunity, just maybe. I mean, Method Orange are starting to make some mistakes, but I think it's just they're out of time. They can't punish these mistakes with what's left in the tank. Jamili's just rotting down RubCub across the map. He's getting soloed by Trill. Trill looks to close with tons of pressure, taking down RubCub in game number 1.
Method Orange definitely heating up. They're playing these back-to-back. But the reason we call Demon Hunter DK a new age, Cleave, is because Demon Hunters can fly and basically be anywhere at any moment in the game. They have just as much mobility. They can be just as far away if they need to be. And then you also just see the sustain that a DK is going to have. It doesn't seem like something that really works the same way that he used to, but we'll have to see what Jamili has in store, instantly going on aggro.
Jamili ramping up that Crusade, so over time his damage is going to increase significantly. Mez trades out throughout the initial aggression with that anti-magic zone. Sea-Doo goes through the mid-range with the Earthen Wall Totem, but right at the end they're going to need something to stop the final punch. Jamili is maxed out on the ramp. How do they respond? Tons of damage potentially, a bit of a disrespect play. Sea-Doo just running away, and Ghost Wolf relying on that. The Crusade is now over. Jamili's damage has been thwarted, and Method Orange escape unscathed.
Yeah, RubCub, though, with his mana doing quite well. Jamili's going to be able to help him out with that Blessing of Sanctuary to remove some of those stuns, limiting the amount of mana rifts Trill will inevitably be able to land onto RubCub. So that's a good adaptation with the Retribution Paladin. Mez under fire right now, taking a bit of pressure, but Sea-Doo positioned very far away, should be able to easily heal through this damage.
Yeah, good positioning on Sea-Doo's part to avoid these Hammer of Justices, but finally one is secured. RubCub getting interrupted and dipping fairly low on health. Seth Curry with a double leg sweep stalls it out. Huge damage following through towards Mez. Finally, some pressure here for M2KC, and I really don't blame them for trying this. It's a lot better than everything else I was running through in terms of considerations on their roster. So far, it is at least forcing more cooldowns than anything they have tried in the past, and potentially this double Paladin pick could be enough to put a point on the board against Method Orange.
Yeah, definitely a possibility here, but Mez seeming a little bit stable right now. Hex secured by Sea-Doo, and the good thing about Sea-Doo with the Shaman, with these hexes, is there's really no decurse on the team of M2KC, so anytime he secures that, no one's really going to be able to remove it. It's a great crowd control option. Grapple weapon onto Mez, so Seth Curry finally revealing that he does have the disarm talent, really limiting the amount of self-healing Mez has available. Sea-Doo has to play catch-up, looking for healing waves. Manages to find them. Nice win shear into a full hex, potentially on RubCub. Gets denied there by Seth Curry. Nicely done. Ring of Peace gets traded out as well as Jamili gets low, and now Method Orange has pressure in 2 different points.
Yeah, Jamili has to Divine Shield. Double stun though as Mez gets bursted down. Will this anti-magic zone be enough? Appears to be the case. Jamili's Crusade is definitely overwhelming pressure. They do manage to trade at least equally as both sides are running out of key defensive cooldowns. Bit unfortunate that the Hex ends up breaking on RubCub. That could have been critical, but Mez is the one who is falling behind. This composition is starting to show that it is going to work. I do see capability for M2KC with this setup. Crusade rolling once again for Jamili. His damage is heavily boosted during this time, but now falling behind. How is RubCub going to exchange? He pre-sacrifices the Hex, redirects the damage, immunes the kill, and now his team can lead the charge. Grapple Weapon, Touch of Death, great combo for tons of damage here, potentially onto Mez. Opting to use his Gliders Medallion and connected Death Strike to stabilize throughout that kill attempt. M2KC showing signs of life, but Method Orange keep it methodical.
Yep, Sea-Doo still just in the back line, throwing out the heals that he needs to keep him alive. Slowly but surely, Method Orange securing a lead. RubCub forced to use the Divine Shield. He needs to get heals off onto Jamili. Jamili's still low, struggling here as Trill and Mez are able to connect. Seth Curry comes back. He's trying to peel for Jamili the best he can with the Sable Roots, with the double leg sweep. Trill trinkets out, still looking to take down Jamili with the double stun. RubCub really struggling to keep him alive. Sea-Doo moves in for potentially the game-winning Hex, but the imprisonment looking to deny that. Jamili's still low, and ultimately Method Orange claims game number 2.
And it is going to be an absolute...
That a blind, or potentially Mez as well. If they can land a kidney shot solar beam on him, maybe they could take him down, but I think if Trill saves his trinket with the darkness, if Mez does a good job with his anti-magic zone, Method Orange have all the tools they need to survive these all-ins from Mew Mew Kitty Cats.
And we see a solar beam attempt, and they are going after Mez. I'm wondering if Jamili may be running Fairy Swarm for disarm effect onto Jamili. That could be a viable option. But in the meantime, Method Orange have completely stalled out that initial attack by trading Gliders Medallion and Reverse Magic to get out of crowd control. But Roasty's played it smart. He saved his major offensive cooldown Vendetta, not overlapping it, so there could be an opportunity for him to burst down a target. Jamili is not running the Fairy Swarm, as I was kind of hoping he would in this specific matchup to try and take down the Death Knights before dampening. But with double Thorns, double Innervate, perhaps RubCub can extend this fight deeper into a dampening and overwhelm the target with that pressure. Cyclone secured, and Roasty's took the time to commit Vendetta and basically got nothing done with it on Mez. And I mean, look at RubCub right now. This is just maybe. Even still, Mez immediately comes out of crowd control, connects 2 Death Strikes, bounces back into the fight, and that scary moment is all but evaporated.
Yep, Roasty's no Vendetta. Jamili, no Incarnation. Mez was able to easily trade with his anti-magic zone, and things are looking really good for Method Orange. M2KC, they need to find damage, and they need to find it fast because they are falling apart. RubCub's mana not looking too great. Sea-Doo has a massive lead. On top of that, Jamili unfortunately overlaps the Barkskin with the Iron Bark from RubCub, and now there's not really a lot of defense left for the team of Mew Mew Kitty Cats. Jamili caught in midfield, looking to find some pressure, but Mez should be able to just shrug it off, heal through this Moonkin damage so far. Here's a nice little swap over on a Trill, but with Trinket and Blur and Darkness, I think he should be able to easily survive.
Another adaptation on Mez's part is that he is running the Lichborn Honor talent, which effectively removes Icebound Fortitude, but more accurately makes it a 1-minute cooldown with no stun break power added to it. But he can use Lichborn every Solar Beam, as Solar Beam is a 1-minute cooldown crowd control, and Trill then has access to Blur, which is a 1-minute cooldown to trade. So they've got an answer for every single Solar Beam, and Method Orange have basically made their defense bulletproof, and that Mana Rift strategy is just an inevitability at this point for RubCub to be totally tapped out. I do think it would be important if M2KC was going to try and go head-to-head with this, that RubCub is either playing the Mistweaver for added punch and that grapple weapon, or a Restoration Shaman, as we've seen, is really the only healer that can deal with the Mana Rift over an extended period of time. You see a Solar Beam attempt there by Jamili, but not getting any sort of results with it. And at this point, if you're M2KC, what do?
I don't know. Try to go after Trill, I guess. Mez really wasn't taking too much damage, so Roasty's trying to slow down some of those mana rifts, and that's the strategy adaptation they have made. But with Sea-Doo able to just chase down RubCub, Mez not really pressured, Trill not really pressured, I think Sea-Doo should be able to force RubCub to stay in combat. There's a full blind secured by Roasty. Sea-Doo just basically sitting through it. Roasty's looking for the sap, manages to find it. Will Sea-Doo trinket out? Looks like he's just going to hold on to it. He knows Trill's not in trouble. He knows that they can potentially close this game out very soon. They don't want to give M2KC any openings in this matchup.
They're doing their best to not overlap, no panic attacks, mana in favor, and Sea-Doo is actually running Electrocute, an honor talent that makes Purge also deal damage. So Sea-Doo, if he can bank a lot of extra mana, we get into dampening and he starts spamming out a couple Purges, that could easily overwhelm RubCub in the late game, and I do expect that to be the main win condition here for Method Orange if they're able to make it that far. Maybe they don't even need it. Jamili's just getting crushed under the weight and power of Method Orange here in game number 3, managing to stabilize, but at the cost of a defensive overlap. In the meantime, at least crowd control secured onto Sea-Doo, but Trill is immediately rotated with defense. That anti-magic zone for the incarnation of Jamili is more than an equivalent exchange. Sea-Doo trying to grounding totem some incoming crowd control and damage and reposition away from Jamili. Mez is attacking Jamili. Trill is trying to hunt down Rubcub. Fortunately, at least for M2KC on Ashmane's Fall, it's one of the biggest maps in the pool, so they may be able to drink and escape, but with that ghoul pet of Mez chasing him, maybe it's unlikely. Double root solar beam, reverse magic from Trill gets Sea-Doo out of that crowd control just in the nick of time to start to stabilize. Trill then metamorphoses onto Jamili, looking to try and find a kill there, but a Cyclone on Sea-Doo, a bit of a risky exchange, attacking into Thorns while your healer is crowd controlled, but it seems to be an exchange they're willing to take.
Yeah, Trill into a kidney shot, could be in some trouble, doesn't want to underreact to the situation. Method Orange could potentially fall. Huge greed there by Method Orange. How did Trill not shrink in darkness there, living on 1% health? Sea-Doo connects the Spirit Link Totem, and I gotta say, Method Orange, they played that way too greedy. That was really lucky for them to stay in this game.
Almost throwing it away there on match point, but still the mana lead is established, and Sea-Doo at any point could turn up the heat and start getting some purges out onto the team of M2KC. Just wants to make sure that it is going to end the game, because it will cost him a lot of mana to do so. Gliders Medallion on Blind, a fair trade on Sea-Doo's part. Trill still with his Gliders Medallion Darkness. Multiple options for Method Orange's defense, and even though it got scary, they didn't overlap, so there's no real opportunities that M2KC can take off the back of that other than praying that it happens again, and they've got a tiny bit more damage to finally take Trill down. Roasties with limited defense, but at this time, Sea-Doo locked down and crowd control. Trill far away, trying to march across the map. Fell rush into reverse magic. Good combo. Trill breaks the chain. Sea-Doo's out and free. Rubcub surprisingly not tapped on mana at this point. I was expecting him to already be completely burnt out, but it is getting pretty close.
Yeah, he's almost completely tapped at this point, dampening at 6%. Rubcub's going to really struggle to keep his team afloat at this point, although it's mostly him that's in trouble. Mez still putting decent amounts of pressure onto Jamili. Another swap here over onto Trill. Sea-Doo making sure he does his job and keeps Rubcub in combat, but with Trill getting low, with no blur available, Trill could definitely be in a lot of trouble. Sea-Doo doesn't have that much healing to really stabilize Trill. Still not trading out the darkness, holding on to his trinket, really relying on a lot of that leech healing he has available. Finally stabilizing, but these are such close calls onto Trill. I really like what M2KC is doing, finally getting some pressure in this match, but it may be too little too late.
Yeah, I think they may have wasted too much time attacking Mez in the early game. Trill is definitely the target they should have been going after start to finish. Jamili trying to crank up some damage and look to carry the team to victory here as they are on match point and face elimination. They really have a good opportunity to climb the ranks with Storm already knocked out of the tournament. M2KC doing everything that they can. Sea-Doo still locked down in crowd control, but the pressure is reversing in favor. Defensive overlap on the side of Method Orange. Both anti-magic zone and darkness in one exchange. That's an opening. M2KC, if they can somehow stay in it, could have a window of opportunity.
Yeah, but it was the Vendetta and the Incarnation from Jamili, so it wasn't necessarily the worst trade. At least they got those major offensives out of the way, managed to stabilize, and Sea-Doo at this point hasn't had to play catch-up at all because of that. Trill once again in a kidney shot, and he doesn't have anything left. Sea-Doo caught into a bash. He has the trinket, but no emergency healing. Now into a full Cyclone. Can they take Trill down? He's holding on by a thread. Rosie's getting a little bit low as well. I-Beam going to heal up Trill just a little bit. Blur still has another 9 seconds. This is very dangerous for Method Orange.
All right, Sea-Doo's mana is almost evening out, but their defense is still, I would say, ahead over M2KC. But with dampening at this point, potentially it's anyone's match. Trill getting stun locked, no Gliders Medallion, Smoke Bomb as well. Spirit Link Totem denies the kill on that. Good positioning on Sea-Doo's part, removing that kill window from the team of M2KC. And now Roastie's on the back foot with Rubcub totally tapped. Maledict's flying in, soaking up heals. Roasties is likely to fall as the pressure is overwhelming. Solar Beam stops the lava burst, but they don't even need it. Method Orange with clean defense and a level head advance, eliminating